Chapter 1469. In front of the chief clan elder, Su Yun still insisted on killing He Mao. The reason was that He Mao had inexplicably dragged him into the water. If Su Yun did not have the strength of the God-sealing realm, he would have been killed by He Mao long ago. How could Su Yun swallow this down? Hai Huang and the remaining two Yao Tian Hai disciples looked at Su Yun. Hai Huang's face was extremely ugly, killing intent surging in his eyes. Su Yun had killed He Mao right in front of him. That was obviously not putting him in his eyes, and even more so, not putting Yao Tian Hai in his eyes. Since you have chosen to do so, Hai Huang has no choice but to ask for your name. In the future, Hai Huang will definitely bring the disciples of Yao Tian Hai to spar with you. Hai Huang said coldly, "Are you looking for me for revenge?" Su Yun suddenly turned and stared at Hai Huang. The killing intent in his eyes was extremely obvious. Hai Huang and the two Yao Tian Hai disciples trembled, and their expressions became nervous. I didn't mean it that way. With Hai Huang's current situation, it was impossible for him to become enemies with Su Yun. Even if he was extremely resentful towards Su Yun, he did not dare express it. If he angered Su Yun, he would not be able to leave. I'm a person who distinguishes between gratitude and grudges. I will not let go of those who provoke me. All of you, you better remember this. Su Yun said coldly, then turned and walked inside, quickly disappearing without a trace. Elder, are we going to let him go just like that? A disciple asked softly. We can't beat him, but He Mao. Don't worry, He Mao won't die just like that. This person is arrogant and arrogant. If we do not punish him, where will my Yao Tianhai's prestige be? Immediately send a message to the sect and ask the vice sect leader to come over. Hai Huang said coldly, Yes, sir. After leaping past the group of people, Su Yun continued to walk inside, and his line of sight became shorter and shorter. Things 100 meters away were already extremely blurry and hazy. If he could not lock onto the direction, he would have long since lost his way. Su Yun carefully walked forward, his senses fully activated, but after taking a few steps, his expression congealed, and he quickly ran towards the right. Devil Chi. Furthermore, it was an extremely pure devil Chi. Su Yun himself could not imagine that there was such a pure devil Chi in this world. Even a true devil sect leader could not be compared to it. Without a doubt, this demonic aura was emitted by the great demon saint. However, after running for nearly 10 kilometers, Su Yun stopped. The source of the devil Chi was not the so-called terrifying great immortal, nor was there the so-called demon saint's body. There was only a withered, grayish-black skeleton. Could it be that my estimation was wrong? This is not the demonic aura emitted by the great demon saint. Were they from other great demons? Su Yun looked at the skeleton, his head full of fog. He tried to probe it. The skeleton was not attached to the resentment. It would not attack people, so he went over and sized up the skeleton. What made Su Yun extremely happy was that the skeleton actually contained an abnormally dense and pure devil Chi. It was like a piece of natural crystal that stored a supreme devil intent. Heavens, what kind of great demon was this skeleton when it was alive? He carefully stretched out his hand and stroked the skeleton. Even though it was just a touch, he could feel pure magic seeping into his fingertips from the smooth bones. He had to bring such a good thing back to cultivate. Su Yun thought. He extended his hand out to keep the skeleton, but just as he used force, he realized that the skeleton seemed to be stuck to the ground and did not move at all. Increasing his strength, it was still useless. Su Yun thought about it. If he could take it away, the skeleton would have been taken away long ago, right? How would it be his turn to find out? But since he couldn't take it away, what was the use of it? There were almost no immortals in the immortal world who cultivated the devil Tao. No matter how pure its devil energy was, it was useless to immortals, but Su Yun was different. After thinking about it, Su Yun sat down cross-legged beside the skeleton and closed his eyes to meditate. It would be a pity if he could not absorb such pure devil energy. All of his pores opened up and absorbed the devil energy from the skeleton. When the devil energy seeped into his body, it actually caused his soul to resonate. Su Yun felt his brain explode with a sudden feeling of enlightenment. as if it had ignited something in his body. How miraculous was this? Su-Yun couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The devil energy flowed all over his body, and even the power of creation could seep in and fuse with it, as if it wanted to transform the terrifying power of creation. So comfortable. Su-Yun could not help but moan. He felt that his state of mind had fallen into a strange state of emptiness. His state of mind was rising bit by bit, and his own power of creation, as well as his connection with all living things in the world, became even stronger, and faintly, an unyielding will was born. This was like a giant in the midst of chaos. It suddenly stood up in Su-Yun's heart, supporting the heavens and earth, opening up the world. For a moment, Su-Yun's state of mind directly rose, as if there was a small world, and this small world was connected to a large world. This was a type of willpower, an increase in the will of the Devil Tao. When he broke through to the God realm, there was still a small strand of divine sense in his mind. At this moment, it seemed to have been stimulated and suddenly released waves of miraculous power. This power was different from the power of creation, and it did not belong to the category of devil energy. It was incomparably miraculous, even more sacred than divine power. Su-Yun had never felt this kind of power before. He did not know that at this moment, his body was constantly releasing golden light, and his body and soul were undergoing a terrifying transformation. After an unknown number of days, he slowly opened his eyes, raised his hand, and casually pinched it. A gray aura erupted from his palm. He was still at the early stages of the God realm, but his strength had increased by a terrifying amount. The pure devil energy that he had absorbed had completely fused with the power of creation, causing the strength and purity of the power of creation to increase by a terrifying amount. He stood up and looked at the skeleton, only to see that it had already turned into powder and disappeared. He never thought that there would be such a fortuitous encounter in the immortal devil graveyard. Who exactly was this great demon? Su-Yun bowed towards the place where the skeleton disappeared, then turned and continued forward. However, after a few steps, another wave of devil chi came over. This wave of devil chi was different from the pure devil chi emitted by the skeleton, but it was stronger and more terrifying than the previous wave of devil chi. Could it be that there's another great demon's corpse nearby? Su-Yun thought, and quickly followed the devil chi. But just as he got close, an invisible barrier suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his way. Su-Yun was startled and reached out to touch the barrier. As if struck by an electric current, Su-Yun's fingers went numb, and he retracted his hand. What a dense, immortal chi! Su-Yun frowned, his expression becoming serious. Among the experts of the immortal world that he had faced, no one had such dense, immortal chi. The degree of strength was simply indescribable. Su-Yun thought for a moment, then suddenly pulled out the double moon sword and fiercely slashed at the barrier. Clang! The double moon sword that was attached to the power of creation was actually unable to break through this terrifying barrier and only left a mark on it. How terrifying! Su-Yun sighed in his heart. But at this moment, a low voice came from inside the barrier. Who is it attacking my barrier? Are you courting death? His voice was like thunder, shaking the soul. Junior Su-Yun has accidentally entered this place. If I have offended Senior, please forgive me. Su-Yun shouted. Oh, you're just a passing immortal? The voice was silent for a moment, then a somewhat playful voice sounded out. Since you're here, then come over. I'm bored here alone, so come and play with me. With that, the barrier disappeared. Senior, what do you mean by that? Su-Yun said vigilantly. If I tell you to come over, then come over. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Hurry up and come, or else I'll make you die without a burial ground. The voice became furious and extremely unfriendly, as if it would take Su-Yun's life if he did not say a word. Since Senior is like this, then Junior will follow your orders. With that, Su-Yun carefully walked inside. After about 5 kilometers, his vision gradually cleared up, and the blurry scene was no longer there. Everything within 10,000 meters was extremely clear, but what Su-Yun cared about was that this place was not special. In this wondrous wasteland, a man dressed in tattered clothes with long gray hair and beard was sitting on the ground, as if he was meditating. Not far away from him, there was also a figure meditating. That person was covered in black armor, with a blood-red demonic mark on his forehead, but his body was completely devoid of life, leaving only devil chi overflowing. When these two figures appeared, the entire world seemed to have quietened down. Demon Saint. Su-Yun glanced at the black armored man who was sitting cross-legged and immediately confirmed his suspicions. The person who was sitting cross-legged was definitely the Demon Saint. The devil chi that the figure was emitting was completely different from Su-Yun's. It had a feeling of primordial origin, as if it was the source of all devils. Was this the strongest devil in the myriad heavens realm? Get over here. Just then, the gray-bearded middle-aged man shouted at Su-Yun. Su-Yun nodded and walked over. Brat, you sure have guts. The ancestor sized up Su-Yun, and a strange smile surfaced on his face. Do you know where this is? You actually dare to barge in here? Do you believe that I can pinch you to death with one finger? I do, Su-Yun said. You know me? Seeing that Su-Yun did not seem to be too panicked, the ancestor suddenly asked. I know, the great immortal who defeated the true devil realm's demon saint, senior ancestor. Su-Yun said. Ha, that's right. That's right. The person who defeated the demon saint was me. I saved the immortal world. I am the hero of the immortal world. Ha 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 ha. If not for me, the immortal world would have been invaded by the devil cultivator a long time ago. Ha 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 ha. The people of the immortal world should thank me. The ancestor laughed out loud, but there was an indescribable arrogance and sorrow in his laughter. Back then, the true devil realm and the immortal world were only negotiating a truce. They did not plan to invade the immortal world, and the true devil realm did not have the ability to invade the immortal world. So how could they be saved? Just then, Su-Yun suddenly spoke again. Hearing that, the ancestor suddenly turned his head and stared coldly at Su-Yun. What did you say? Chapter 1470. Regarding the negotiation back then, this junior has also heard a little about it. Since the immortals and demons are already prepared to stop the war and negotiate, why did senior still secretly attack and harm the demon saint, causing the immortals and demons to turn against each other? Su-Yun was not afraid of the ancestor's terrifying gaze and continued to speak indifferently. What do you know? Ignorant child. Ancestor shouted angrily. Devils are evil and filthy beings. Once they rise, they will definitely devour the myriad world, causing misery and suffering for all living beings. Everything will turn into ashes. I am doing this for the sake of the myriad world and all living beings in the world. What do you know? Hearing that, Su-Yun did not say anything. He felt that there was no point in arguing with this person. Senior, why did you ask this junior to come here? Su-Yun asked. It's nothing. I'm just bored to death by myself, so I asked you to accompany me. Ancestor suddenly laughed, and without any warning, his palm struck toward Su-Yun. He did not hold back at all, as if he wanted to break Su-Yun's arm. Su-Yun's expression changed and immediately dodged. Although he's only at the Ascendant God initial stage, he seems to be quite skilled. Ancestor smiled sinisterly. Over the years, there have been many people who have intruded into my place, but now they are all under your feet, turned into this graveyard. I have made such a great contribution to the peace of the immortal world. Shouldn't you find me some fun and let me relax? With that, Ancestor Origin suddenly made his move again, grabbing towards Su-Yun. The seemingly withered hand suddenly enlarged, becoming as terrifying as a mountain. Break! Su-Yun raised the dual moon sword and slashed fiercely, but his hand was extremely tough. The sword chi collided, but it could not break. Helpless, he could only dodge hurriedly. He was blown away by the strong wind from the big hand and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Ha ha ha! Seeing Su-Yun like that, the ancestor laughed out loud, as though he felt that it was very funny. If he were to be struck by that large hand, even if he didn't die, he would be heavily injured. Was this guy treating people's lives as a joke? Compared to the people of the true devil realm, you look more like a devil, Su Yun said coldly. I'm more like a demon? What do you know? Who do you think you are? Weaklings like you're only fit to be played with by the strong. If I want you to live, then you will live. If I want you to die, then you will die. The origin ancestor seemed to be infuriated. He struck out with his palm, shattering the void and causing the sky to darken. The terrifying power was simply unstoppable. Su Yun hastily raised his sword to block again. The dual moon sword was placed horizontally in front of him, but it seemed especially small. Not good. I can't block this attack at all. Su Yun's face changed, but at this moment, the twin moon swords in his hands suddenly left his hands, blooming a full moon pattern in the air, and then fiercely collided with the aura. In an instant, the sword light shone brightly, and the sword will exploded, engulfing the entire island like a torrent. Su Yun's face was pale. Clang! The double moon sword collided with the terrifying power and completely blocked it, but the price was that it was directly broken into two halves. What a good spiritual sword! In the face of danger, it would rather sacrifice itself to protect its master. It's such a waste for you to have this sword. Seeing that the sword in Su Yun's hand had actually saved his life, the original ancestor laughed. He was extremely interested in this scene. I will definitely kill you. Su Yun's expression was sinister, his killing intent exploding. But at this moment, the original ancestor seemed to have sensed something, and the smile on his face became even wider. Looks like there's going to be more fun. As his voice fell, his figure instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already grabbed 3 figures in front of him. Looking closely, he saw that they were the people from the Jade Heaven Sea, Hai Huang, and the 2 disciples. TSK, it's so lively here today. The original ancestor's gaze fell on the female disciple among the 3, his eyes suffused with a lustful light. Although Hai Huang didn't know what was going on, he had already guessed that the person in front of him was an existence that they couldn't defeat. He was probably no longer an expert of the conferred God realm, but an even more supreme existence. Senior, we are from the Jade Heaven Sea. We entered this place by mistake and offended you. Please forgive us. May I know why you brought us here? Hai Huang said, but in the next second, a palm slapped over. Crack! Hai Huang's body directly cracked. His flesh and blood flew everywhere, his soul shattered, and he died a miserable death. When the 2 disciples saw this, they fell to the ground in fright, their bodies trembling violently. What kind of method would it take to kill a conferred God realm existence with a single palm strike? You're so noisy. I want to enjoy myself. The original ancestor snorted. Then his gaze fell on the female disciple, and he laughed evilly. Take off your own clothes and come over to dual cultivate with me. To be able to dual cultivate with me is your fortune of 8 lifetimes. If I'm in a good mood, I won't kill you. If you leave this place, your cultivation will definitely soar. No, no. The female disciple's body trembled, and she suddenly shook her head. Do you want to die? The original ancestor was enraged. You? Who the hell are you? Why are you doing this? Can't you let us go? The male disciple stood in front of the female disciple and said with a trembling voice. Although his strength was low at this moment, he had given up his life and relied on his courage to stand in front of the female disciple. Seeing that, Su Yun could not help but admire this male disciple. He took a deep breath, suddenly stood up, and walked towards the original ancestor. As he walked, he placed one of his hands in the space bag, and the killing intent in his eyes suddenly exploded. You dare to stop me? You're simply courting death. The original ancestor was enraged. Such an ant actually dared to disobey him, and immediately slapped out again. Before the palm even landed, the terrifying pressure caused the 2 of them to vomit blood. It's over. They closed their eyes. But at this critical moment, a terrifying destructive force suddenly swept over from afar. The original ancestor was shocked. He looked to the side, only to see a terrifying sword slashing towards his head. Heaven Destroyer sword? The original ancestor obviously recognized the sword. His face immediately changed, and he anxiously dodged, But he was too careless. He did not expect Su Yun to have another sword, and it was the terrifying Heaven Destroyer sword. The Heaven Destroyer sword directly cut open the original ancestor's chest, and golden red blood flowed out. It was extremely eye-catching. The original ancestor was stunned. He lowered his head and stared blankly at the wound on his chest, probably not able to react. If you don't want to die, then hurry up and leave. Su Yun shouted at the two disciples of the Yao Tian Si. When the two of them realized that the person who saved them was actually the person who killed He Mao not long ago, they were extremely surprised, but this was not the time to be in a daze. The two of them hurriedly retreated and left. Su Yun raised his sword and continued to slash at the original ancestor. At this moment, he did not hold back at all and used all of his power of creation. You think you can become my enemy just because you have the Heaven Destroyer sword? You're thinking too much. The gap between us is immeasurable. Although the Heaven Destroyer sword is a good sword, it can't help you defeat me. You don't know anything about my strength. If I wanted to kill you, it would be as easy as flipping my hand. It just so happens that I'm bored to death here. So you can give me some fun? The original ancestor was so angry that he laughed and began to take it seriously. With a roar, the surrounding space started to tremble, and an invisible pressure forced Su Yun to move towards him. Su Yun's face changed. The power of creation rippled, transforming into millions of chi swords that pierced towards the original ancestor. You dare to show off your insignificant skills. Break! The original ancestor shouted again, and that mysterious power exploded from his palm, transforming into billions of rice-sized chi particles that collided with the chi sword, completely detonating it, not leaving a single one behind. Sword power! Su Yun gripped the Heaven Destroyer sword tightly and roared. The power of the sword erupted. However, it did not affect the original ancestor in the slightest. His body was as stable as Mount Tai, not moving at all. Su Yun gritted his teeth, leaped forward, and slashed with his sword. The Heaven Destroyer sword is indeed a treasure, but the user's ability is too weak and is unable to unleash the true power of this sword. You are not worthy of this sword. The original ancestor sneered, raised his hand, and directly grabbed the edge of the Heaven Destroyer sword. What? Su Yun was stunned. As a sword user, he naturally knew how terrifying the destructive power of the sword was. Just this move alone showed how powerful the original ancestor's body was. Die! The original ancestor's other hand grabbed towards Su Yun's heart. The sharp claws could not be blocked. Just at that moment of life and death, Su Yun's eyes suddenly turned red, and he bellowed out. Seal! Crash! A strange power came out of his left palm. There was a mirror there. More than half of the original ancestor's soul was tied up and could not be completely sealed. However, this gap also blocked his attack. Su Yun took advantage of the situation and slashed down with his sword. With a pu sound, the original ancestor's palm was cut off. This is the life, wretched realm? You actually have the life, wretched realm? You are from the true devil realm? The original ancestor roared again and again, as if he had been provoked by something. Original ancestor, the true devil realm has already risen, and the demon saint has returned. You have been guarding this place all these years because you are worried that the demon saint will revive, but your worries have turned into reality in the end, and you cannot stop it. Su Yun bellowed, holding onto the life, wretched realm. He rushed towards the original ancestor again. More than half of his soul was sealed. The original ancestor's strength was hindered, and he was unable to escape for a while. This life, wretched realm was truly worthy of being one of the 10 great devil weapons of the true devil realm. Its grade was actually so terrifying. Don't be too complacent. Do you think you're the only one with a magic treasure? The original ancestor suddenly opened his mouth and released waves of deep roars. Amidst the sound waves, a palm-sized wind tiger actually flew out. The wind tiger flew into the sky and continuously circled around, releasing waves of tiger roars. Su Yun was immediately shaken by the tiger roar and almost fainted. An opportunity. The original ancestor laughed out loud and pounced forward, striking Su Yun's head with his palm. So. At this moment, waves of chi came from afar and attacked the original ancestor. The original ancestor was caught off guard and was sent flying by the chi wave. He landed on the ground, but he seemed to be fine. Is there something fun to play with again? The original ancestor squinted his eyes and looked into the distance, only to see a large group of people rushing over. People from a Jade Sky Sea. Chapter 1471. After receiving the news from Hai Huang, they quickly rushed towards the graveyard of immortals and devils. Originally, when the people of Jade Sky Sea heard that the immortal devil Bodhi had appeared here, they specially asked Hai Huang to bring a group of people to investigate, but they did not expect to encounter such a thing. When they arrived at the graveyard of immortals and devils and met up with the two disciples, the experts of Jade Sky Sea were even more shocked. Hai Huang was actually dead. Furthermore, he was killed with a single palm strike. They quickly thought of who the person who killed Hai Huang was. The person who guarded the graveyard of immortals and devils and had always been guarding the corpse of the devil saint, ancestor. During the great war of immortals and demons, the origin ancestor's name had already shaken the entire immortal world. He was a supreme expert who could not be looked up to. All these years, he had been guarding the devil saint's corpse. No one knew how much he had grown, but they knew that his strength wasn't something Yao Tianhai could contend against. But at this moment, Yao Tianhai's people had no choice but to fight because they had received orders from the sect leader to restrain the origin ancestor. The sect leader guessed that the origin ancestor was surrounded by immortal devil Bodhi. As long as they could force him back, they would not only obtain the corpse of a peerless great devil, but also a terrifying number of immortal devil Bodhi. They had no choice but to fight the origin ancestor. When they saw that there was another person beside ancestor, the people of Jade Sky Sea were all stunned. Who is this person? A middle-aged man with red hair and red eyebrows stared at Su Yun and asked, "This person?" The eyes of the two disciples who were saved by Su Yun flickered. Just as the man was about to speak, the woman took a step forward and said, "This person is the one who killed senior brother He Mao." What? All of their faces were filled with anger. The man hesitated for a moment, but did not say a word. Hearing that, Su Yun coldly snorted. What a good act of repaying kindness with enmity. I saved you, but you treat me like this. It seems like the people of Jade Sky Sea are all beasts that are worse than pigs and dogs. Count it as me saving two animals. You saved me? It was clearly senior brother Chi who saved me. No matter what you say, senior brother He Mao died in your hands. You can't escape responsibility. The female disciple shouted. The middle-aged man with red hair and red eyebrows stared at Su Yun and said coldly, "Brat, who are you?" That is the Heaven Destroyer sword in his hand. That person should be Su Yun. Someone at the side shouted. Su Yun? Everyone was startled. This person is the immortal-slaying Grand Judge, Su Yun of the God-slaying Dragon Clan. I've heard that he's been acting all high and mighty recently, wiping out quite a number of immortal sections. It's also rumored that he has the ominous sword in his hands. And now, he even obtained the Heaven Destroyer sword. I'm afraid that the methods of this person aren't simple. Although you have the apatheicized state, you are not invincible. What are you afraid of? We'll deal with the ancestral founder first, then kill this person and seize the Heaven Destroyer sword and the ominous sword. With these two swords, the rise of our Jade Heaven Sea is just around the corner. The crimson-haired, crimson-browed middle-aged man shouted. Hearing that, everyone responded loudly. Everyone rushed towards original ancestor, while the red-haired man with red eyebrows pounced towards Su Yun. Hand over the Heaven Destroyer sword and the ominous sword, and I'll spare your life. Su Yun's expression turned cold. He pulled out his sword and leapt. The berserk sword intent spewed out, tearing apart his chi, and fiercely slashed forward. You want the Sky Destroyer sword? Give me your life in exchange. Boom! The two's power of creation collided, causing the entire island to tremble. With just one move, Su Yun knew the cultivation level of the middle-aged man with red hair and red eyebrows. The middle stage of the God-sealing realm was a stage stronger than him. Su Yun, maybe you don't know me. My name is Qi Xiao, and I am the vice sect leader of the Jade Heaven Sea. You are unable to contend against my strength, although you have killed the immortal court and destroyed the divine dragon race. But in my eyes, these things are nothing. These people are just small fries. If it wasn't for the fact that they would often pay tribute to us, how could we allow them to act so presumptuously in the immortal world? I can feel that you haven't been cultivating for a long time. For you to be able to enter the God-sealing realm, you definitely have terrifying talent. You are a good seedling. If you're willing to hand over the Heaven Destroyer sword and the ominous sword to me, I can accept you as my disciple and help you reach a higher realm. You want to take me in as your disciple? Su Yin was stunned for a moment. Then he sneered. You think too highly of yourself. The disciples of a sect are already so cruel and unscrupulous, repaying kindness with enmity. Their sect leader is not much better. You are not fit to teach me. Bastard. Qi Xiao was enraged. His red hair was in a mess as he rushed towards Su Yun. Let me teach you how to be a person. Boom. Qi Xiao slapped his palm forward, his palm spewing out a terrifying flame. Like a poisonous snake, Su Yun anxiously used the sword screen to block. The flame was completely formed from the power of creation, triggering the fire attribute of the power of creation. With fire as the main element, its attack power was extremely terrifying, able to easily melt a piece of steel. Even an immortal who was completely protected by divine power would not be able to last a second in front of this terrifying flame. However, how could the power of the Heaven Destroyer sword be undeserved? The stronger the power of the flame, the more terrifying the Heaven Destroyer sword was. The enemy was strong, and I was strong. This was the characteristic of the Heaven Destroyer sword. The sword edge trembled violently, the sword cry roared, and an unyielding power exploded out. The terrifying sword Qi instantly tore apart the flame. The Heaven Destroyer sword was indeed terrifying, but it was only used by someone in the early stage of the God-sealing realm. The master was weak and could not unleash the power of the sword. Qi Xiao thought coldly. Suddenly, both of his palms blasted towards the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. A bolt of lightning with flames fell from the sky and smashed towards Su Yun. Su Yun was surrounded by a terrifying high temperature, as if everything around him was about to be ignited. The aura in his body was turbulent, and his flesh and bones seemed to be destroyed by a supreme power. Sword, the power of the Heaven Destroyer, sword bloomed. Dying. Qi Zhao's eyes were cold and murderous. His eyes seemed to be burning with purgatory fire. The power of creation was like a blade, constantly piercing the sky. The sky continued to fall with the fire of the thunder tribulation. You want me to die? Can you do it? At this time, Su Yun suddenly raised his head. His eyes revealed a sharp light, and a wave of madness swept over. Qi Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He felt that something was wrong. But at this time, Su Yun suddenly threw out the Heaven Destroyer sword in his hand, letting the terrible fire of the thunder tribulation hit him. Dong! The moment the Heaven Destroyer sword flew out, the fire of the thunder tribulation fell down fiercely. The power of the thunder tribulation completely submerged him. But the Heaven Destroyer sword that left his hand was like a bolt of lightning, fiercely attacking Qi Xiao. Qi Xiao howled. The Heaven Destroyer sword penetrated his chest and cut off one of his meridians of creation. He couldn't believe that Su Yun actually used such a move. It was too ruthless. If a person could be so ruthless to himself, then the way he treated his enemies could be imagined. However, it was all over. In order to hurt me, you don't hesitate to exchange your life for it? Even so, you're still dead. Qi Xiao gritted his teeth and hurriedly took out a medicinal pill from the space bag and stuffed it into his mouth. The meridians of creation were cut off, so his cultivation was bound to drop a lot. He was afraid that he would return to the early stage of the deity realm. However, as far as the current situation was concerned, it was still very good, because once Su Yun died, the Heaven Destroyer sword would be his. As long as he had the Heaven Destroyer sword, he could completely make up for this loss. Very good. The Heaven Destroyer sword is mine. He reached out to grab the floating sword in the air. But at this time, the sharp sword suddenly flew out and cut him again. Qi Xiao was careless, and the Heaven Destroyer sword cut off one of his arms. Ah! The terrible destructive power of the Heaven Destroyer sword bit and devoured his wound, making his face pale with cold sweat. What's going on? This sword has no master. Why is it still so aggressive? He stared at the Heaven Destroyer sword with anger and resentment. Who told you that this sword has no master? Just then, Su Yun's voice sounded again. Qi Xiao trembled and looked over, only to see that the thunder tribulation fire had dissipated, and Su Yun's figure appeared in his sight again. His whole body was black and scorched, and he looked quite embarrassed, but it was not serious. A faint layer of golden light wrapped around his body. The power of divine sense? Qi Xiao's eyes widened, and he looked at the golden light in disbelief. At this time, he felt the power of divine sense. This was a special power that only the peak of the deity realm could condense. How could a person in the early stage of the deity realm have such power? How is this possible? I originally had no enmity with the people of the Jade Heaven Sea, but when we met in the graveyard of immortals and demons, your Jade Heaven Sea disciple, Himao, dragged me down to protect himself, causing me to fight with the ancient gods. If I was not strong enough, I would have been killed. I am a man of character, and if people respect me, I will respect them 10 times more. There was nothing wrong with me killing him. As for those 2 disciples from the Jade Heaven Sea, they should have been killed by the Origin Ancestor along with Hai Huang. However, I didn't hate you people from the Jade Heaven Sea. Instead, I acted to kill the Origin Ancestor and save them. As far as I was concerned, they were just ordinary disciples and didn't do anything wrong. Now that I think about it, I was wrong. They repaid kindness with enmity and actually lured you to kill me. Is everyone in the Jade Heaven Sea like this? After saying this, the 2 of them were a little ashamed, but things had already come to this point, and there was no turning back. Things have already come to this. There is nothing more to say. I have no feelings for your Jade Heaven Sea. Qi Xiao die, Su Yun said coldly, suddenly rushing over and pointing with his finger. So. Hundreds of millions of Qi swords appeared around Qi Xiao, like a cocoon, completely sealing him. He was now injured. The fighting strength of one of his arms had decreased, and one of the vein of fortune had been cut off. The power of fortune was extremely unstable, and he no longer had any advantage in terms of strength. Facing such a strange attack from Su Yun, Qi Xiao was at a loss. You don't kill me. Su Yun, this is all a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Qi Xiao trembled, his lips trembled, and he shouted in panic, but Su Yun ignored him. The Qi sword pierced forward, and he leaped up, grabbed the heaven-exterminating sword in midair, and slashed toward Qi Xiao. The terrifying sword might fell. The sword Qi was seamless, sealing off everything. Qi Xiao could not dodge, and was instantly cut into countless pieces. Qi Xiao died. Chapter 1472. After keeping Qi Xiao's soul and space bag, Su Yun quickly retreated. The people on the other side had no time to care about the battle between Su Yun and Qi Xiao, because at this moment, they were being crazily slaughtered by the original ancestor. The people of Jade Sky Sea knew that the original ancestor was very strong, so the people they brought this time were all elites. However, their estimation of the original ancestor's strength was still wrong. The strength of the original ancestor had already exceeded their imagination. In the blink of an eye, half of the people from Jade Sky Sea had already died. The remaining half were panicking, not knowing whether to attack or escape. Su Yun saw that most of these people were existences at the peak of the spirit profound god and the origin realm. There were only 2 in the early stage of the god realm, but they were in an extremely sorry state. The original ancestor was completely toying with them and did not fight seriously at all. Ha, come again. Come and play with Grandpa again. Ha. The original ancestor laughed out loud. His palm suddenly grew in size and directly grabbed onto an existence of the ruins. With a squeeze of his palm, the existence of the ruins was crushed to death like a meatball. The surrounding people were trembling in fear. It was as if this was not a battle on the same level at all. Su Yun frowned. He secretly retreated and did not participate. At this moment, a voice sounded in his ears. "Do you know what realm this original ancestor is at?" The voice was very familiar. Su Yun was startled. He turned to look, only to see that the true devil sect leader had appeared beside him. "Sect leader, when did you come?" "I came when you were fighting with Qi Shao. With such a huge commotion here, how could I possibly stay idle?" The sect leader stared at the original ancestor and said expressionlessly, "Then why did you keep watching from the shadows and not come out to help me?" Su Yun said helplessly, "If you, who possess the heaven-exterminating sword, can't even defeat this Qi Shao, then this sword will truly follow the wrong master." The sect leader looked at the figure sitting cross-legged not far away. His devil eyes flickered, and his expressionless face finally revealed a trace of excitement. What he said was right. Su Yun fighting Qi Shao would naturally not be a big problem. If he were to help, he was afraid that it would cause a lot of trouble. This original ancestor possesses the primogenitor realm. He is the ancestor of the world. There is no one who can compete with him. He has not used his full strength yet. If he were to go all out, these Jade Sky Sea people would not even be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Although you have the heaven-exterminating sword, but the heaven-exterminating sword is not an evil sword. If you want to defeat the original ancestor, I am afraid it will not be that easy. Su Yun, how about this? You and I work together. You think of a way to stall the original ancestor. I will remove the seal on Senior Brother's body, activate his soul, awaken his soul, and completely recover. As long as Senior Brother revives, the demon saint reappears. He will definitely be able to destroy the original ancestor. True Devil Sect Lord said. The situation was becoming more and more complicated. Jade Sky Sea's people had arrived, and he didn't dare guarantee that the other immortal sects wouldn't have experts returning. He had to quickly end things here to ensure that the immortals wouldn't discover him, and that he wouldn't be targeted by the great immortals. All right, Su Yun also understood that even with the heaven-exterminating sword, it would be difficult to kill the original ancestor. The only thing he could do now was delay. "Let's go," the true Devil Sect Lord bellowed, and pounced forward. Su Yun immediately followed, holding onto the heaven-exterminating sword. He rushed towards the original ancestor. The power of the heaven-exterminating sword was extremely terrifying. The original ancestor was immediately provoked. He turned his gaze, only to see Su Yun attacking like a cheetah in an instant. "You really don't cherish your own life." The original ancestor was infuriated by Su Yun's actions. He thought that Su Yun would escape, but he never thought that the other party would not escape, and instead rushed forward to kill him. Wasn't this slapping his face? As a powerful existence of the primogenitor realm, he was practically a true god in the immortal world. In the entire immortal world, there was basically no one who could disobey him. And if it wasn't for the demon saint's soul, he wouldn't have stayed here to be a corpse guard. "Shake!" The original ancestor shouted, and the power of the ancestor spread out in all directions. The crowd retreated, and the weak were injured, spitting out blood. The heaven-exterminating sword's edge was shaken to the side, and its power dissipated, but Su Yun clenched his teeth and did not retreat. The God-sealing realm was already the pillar of the super sects in the immortal world. Even the sect leader of the super sects, the strongest person, was only at the peak of the God-sealing realm, and the primogenitor realm only existed in the ancient times. However, after so many years of changes in the flow of time, the small number of primogenitor realm experts had also disappeared, and there were not many who could remain, and the number of people who had just advanced to the primogenitor realm could be counted on one hand. The primogenitor realm represented the strongest realm in the myriad heavens realm, and could be considered the strongest person below the creation world. A powerful primogenitor realm expert was enough to sweep through more than half of the immortal world. No one could stop him. Many immortals had never seen such an existence before. Their understanding of the primogenitor realm experts might only exist in the sect's ancient records or the history books of the immortal world. And what Su Yun wanted to challenge today was impressively the highest fighting strength in the myriad heavens realm. This was something that many immortals did not dare to imagine. I will let you know just how big the gap is between you and me. One look from me is enough to kill you. With that said, the ancestor's eyes suddenly released a terrifying, profound luster, suddenly shining on Su Yun. In that instant, all the surrounding power of creation froze, as though it was sealed by something. Die! The ancestor slapped out a palm of death, rubbing against the void and striking toward Su Yun. This palm could not be blocked, and before the palm force arrived, it gave people the illusion that they had fallen into the embrace of the death god. Su Yun held his sword horizontally across his chest, his palm striking the heaven-extinguishing sword, causing him to fly out, spitting out blood. He felt as though the palm was going to shatter all of his internal organs. It was too terrifying. After all, there was a difference of an entire realm. The God-sealing realm could easily kill the existences of the origin ruins, while the primogenitor realm could control the life and death of everyone below the realm. The difference in strength was indeed something that the heaven-extinguishing sword could not make up for. The sword ancestor had miscalculated. This sword could not defeat the ancestor. You're just an ant, yet you dare to provoke the god of heaven. You're simply courting death. The ancestor sneered and walked towards Su Yun. But at this moment, his brows suddenly furrowed, his gaze shifted, and he looked towards the other side. Crash! A burst of demonic chi that soared into the sky erupted, and beneath the demon saint's body that was sitting cross-legged on the ground, a pitch-black lotus suddenly bloomed, and behind him stood a similarly pitch-black figure. You're poor, the ancestor shouted angrily. Ancestor, long time no see, the true devil sect lord said indifferently, but the devil chi in his body was frantically pouring into the demon saint's body. You want to save your senior brother? Although the ancestor's face was filled with anger, he quickly calmed down. Instead, he had a cold smile on his face, and a look of wisdom flashed past the depths of his eyes. My senior brother is powerful, and his methods are heaven-defying. Although he is a demon, he is more upright than you immortals. If he is willing, do you think that the people of the immortal world can still be called immortals by the myriad worlds? I'm afraid it has long since been reversed. Immortals will be called devils, and we, the so-called devils, are the immortals. Unfortunately, senior brother does not have such intentions. He only wants to occupy his own realm and pursue the Tao in peace. However, you all used negotiations as an excuse to lure senior brother out, and even secretly harmed him, turning the entire immortal island into a battlefield for the final battle between immortals and demons. However, you didn't expect it, right? My senior brother's fleshly body cannot be destroyed, and his soul is protected by his fleshly body, so it will not be harmed. His resurrection is only a matter of time. Are you that confident? The ancestor said, all these years, you have been guarding my senior brother's corpse because you are worried that he will kill you after he revives. Unfortunately, you can't stop all of this. You will definitely die in my senior brother's hands, and today is the day my true devil realm rises. The true devil sect, Lord roared. Rise? You want to go against the heavens? You're thinking too much. The ancestor coldly snorted, his entire body pouncing towards the sect leader. Su Yun's eyes flashed with a cold light. Even though his body was injured, he was ignored. He leaped up, and the heaven-exterminating sword slashed towards the ancestor. Scram! The ancestor roared, like a giant roaring. The sound wave exploded, almost tearing Su Yun's body apart. The power of creation that was attached to his body was instantly dispersed. No matter how profound the power of creation is, it can't be stronger than the ancestral power. Everything you've done is futile. Is that so? Su Yun's eyes were blood red. The black chi around his body crazily leaked out, and within the dissipating power of creation, there seemed to be a unique power trembling. The ancestor was slightly stunned. However, in the next second, he was ruthlessly sent flying. Dong! The origin ancestor's body fell to the ground, and he was in an extremely sorry state. When he stood up again, he saw that there was a bloody sword mark on his chest. What? The ancestor was in disbelief. A person at the early stage of the god realm was actually able to injure him. This is... The ancestor suddenly sensed that something was wrong. There was a bit of grayish-black aura rippling from his wound. Evil sword chi. This is the aura of the evil sword. The ancestor suddenly shouted excitedly. He raised his eyes and looked at Su Yun, his expression extremely sinister. No matter how strong the Heaven Destroyer sword was, it could not destroy the world, but the evil sword could. The evil sword was the strongest sword in the world. The power of the evil sword surpassed everything. With this sword, one would have everything. This was the understanding of many people, but in reality, it was not so. Only Su Yun knew the true evil sword. Su Yun's eyes narrowed. Although he had the strength of the god realm, the difference in strength between him and the ancestor was too great, and it was difficult for him to unleash the true power of the Heaven Destroyer sword. To be able to injure the ancestor, it was only the little evil sword chi that was stored. The Heaven Destroyer sword was enveloped by the evil sword chi, and its evil intent became stronger. Su Yun stood up with difficulty and continued to rush towards the ancestor. He wanted to buy even a second for the sect leader. As long as the demon saint could recover, everything would be over. Crash! At this time, the soaring devil chi suddenly spread out like a blooming flower, gathering towards the figure sitting cross-legged. Not long after, the sound of glass shattering came from the body. The seal is broken. The seal is broken. Sect leader Chi Cheong shouted excitedly. However, in the next second, the sect leader's face suddenly became deathly pale. Chapter 1473. How could this be? No soul ripples? Sect leader Chi Yu anxiously squatted down, extended his hand, and pressed on the body, closed his eyes, as though he was looking at the corpse, but in the next second he suddenly retracted his hand and looked at Ancestor Origin in shock. What did you do to my senior brother? Why can't I feel his soul? Is this corpse just an empty shell? Also, why is your power so dense in this corpse? What did you do? Ha 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 ha, idiots. Do you really think that I've been guarding the demon saint's corpse for so many years just to prevent him from being reborn? All of you are wrong. All these years, I've been refining the demon saint's body. As long as I completely strip him of his power, I can become the god of creation of the myriad heavens. Nothing can destroy me. Even the ominous sword will submit to me. Ha ha. Ancestor Origin laughed out loud, but his voice was like a sharp knife, stabbing in his sect leader, Chi Cheong's heart. It turned out that everything was wrong. It was impossible for the devil saint to be resurrected. His physical body had been changed by the Origin ancestor. Even if his soul woke up, it would not be able to attach to his physical body and resurrect unless he created another physical body. However, if that was the case, the devil saint would lose all his cultivation. Chi Cheong's expression was extremely ugly. He was no longer in control of the current situation. All of his hopes had been shattered, and things were no longer going as he had thought. All these years of hard work had been in vain. Sect leader, since we can't revive the demon saint, we need to leave immediately. Su Yun bellowed. He was naturally very disappointed, but he was unable to revive the demon saint. The ancestor Origin was powerful. He could not resist. If he did not leave, he would probably stay here. Leave? No, we can't leave yet. Sect leader Chi Cheong seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly turned and looked at Su Yun. Demon Monarch, quickly enter the demon saint's body, find the demon saint's soul, and see if senior brother has any ideas. The sect leader did not seem to intend to give up. Enter the demon saint's body? Elder brother's body is actually a minor world, and his soul is slumbering within it. You have the aura of a ferocious sword on you, as well as the heaven-destroying sword. You'll definitely be able to wake him up. Elder brother is wise and resourceful, so he definitely has a way to deal with this. Hurry up and do it. I'll help you block this person. Sect Master Chi Cheong shouted before dashing towards Founder Ancestor. Since the sect leader was not willing to give up, Su Yin would not leave just like that. Since he had made the decision, he would give it his all. Su Yin nodded his head. He did not dare hesitate and immediately approached the demon saint's body. Dream on. On the other side, the founding ancestor seemed to be anxious as well. With a loud roar, he pounced over. However, before he could get close, he was forced back by Chi Cheong's palm. Chi Cheong was shockingly at the peak of the ascended god realm. The thick power of good fortune shocked the people of the Jade Heaven Sea so much that they trembled. Although your strength is inferior to your senior brother, you can still exchange a few blows with me. I just don't know how long you can last. I'll kill you later and refine your soul. That way, my cultivation will improve a little. Forefather stared at Sect Master Chi Cheong and said coldly, Kill me? I'm afraid you can't. Chi Cheong's expression suddenly turned sinister. His eyes turned red and dazzling blood flowed out his eyes. A large number of blood-red veins crawled all over his body. Snore, 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 a strange sound rang out. At this moment, Chi Cheong's skin seemed to be breathing. A surge of demonic chi surged out and instantly enveloped the entire deserted island. It was as if the place had been dragged into the end of the world. Forefather's pupils dilated, his face filled with disbelief. You actually burned your own demonic blood? The burning of demonic blood could release all of one's strength, including one's potential, and so on. All of it was sacrificed without any reservation. Demons were very crazy existences. Ancestor knew this better than anyone, but he did not expect Chi Cheong to do this. As the demonic blood continued to be burned, the aura around Chi Cheong's body began to rise crazily, and there were faint signs of a breakthrough. Ancestor gritted his teeth and suddenly rushed forward, punching towards Chi Cheong's head. But just as his fist was about to reach Chi Cheong, a demonic roar erupted. Scram! The sound wave was like a palm, directly blasting him away. Following that, a deafening chime erupted from Sect Master Chi Cheong's body. Like a wake-up call, it shook one's soul. At this moment, everyone in the immortal world could vaguely hear this chime. This was the sound of a breakthrough. Even if it was just a temporary breakthrough, it announced to everyone that another person had grasped the primogenitor's power. After burning all the devil blood, Sect Master Chi Cheong actually possessed the strength of an end realm expert. This was simply unimaginable. Original Ancestor grimaced. He gloomily gazed at Bai Cheong, the murderous intent in his eyes extremely thick. So what if that's the case? You're burning your demon blood and using your potential as a guide. The progenitor's power you have now isn't long-term. Once your demon blood's power is used up, you'll return to your original state. Without the support of demon blood, your potential will be exhausted and your talent will drop to its lowest point. From now on, you'll only have the strength of a peak ascended god, and it'll be impossible for you to grow anymore. So what? Sect Master Chi Cheong's expression was ferocious as he growled in a low voice. You harmed my senior brother, so I'll take your life today. As long as I can kill you, I don't care what price I have to pay. Die. Chi Cheong rushed forward, thousands of devil chi like a magnificent army, attacking Ancestor. Ancestor snorted coldly. So what if you have the strength of an Ancestor now? I'm someone who has stepped into the Ancestor realm for a long time, and you're just a newcomer. There are strong and weak Ancestors, and you're the weakest one. Do you really think we're at the same cultivation level? You're wrong. You're still incomparably weak in front of me, and that won't change. If you want to kill me, you're not qualified. Chi Cheong bellowed, and the sound waves swept out in all directions. All the immortals inside and outside the deserted island were affected, and the peak of Spirit God Realm was directly killed. The ruins of Origin also vomited blood and was heavily injured. Even the Ascended God Realm was not spared. Heavenly Demon God Palm. Chi Cheong slapped out with his palm. The devil Chi soared into the sky, transforming into the shadow of the Heavenly Demon. With a palm strike, the entire island was immediately filled with cracks. Ancestor's body moved, and he instantly moved away. With a point of his finger, he released 10,000 types of profound energy. The power stacked up like a vast wave, and it was extremely terrifying. Clipchamp waved his hands, and the devil Chi rose up, forming a huge fist in front of him, and shattered the power. The deserted island had already begun to fall apart, and the people on the island were frantically retreating. The Battle of the Gods was not something that mortals could participate in. They could not even watch. If they were not careful, their divine arts could take their lives. But at that moment, Su Yun had already completely entered the demon saint's body. Sect Master Clipchamp had already opened the small world inside the demon saint's body. Inside the small world, it was filled with the supreme devil power of the demon saint's body. It was a dusky world. There was heaven and earth, but there was no sun or moon. The strong wind blew, and Su Yun stepped on the black ground, walking aimlessly. Ancestor experts were already existences close to the creation of a world. If they wanted to create a new world, a new realm, it would not be too difficult. After the demon saint stepped into the ancestor realm, he transformed his body into a small world. After the small world was born, his own power would not need the meridian of fortune and the eye of fortune. The energy of the small world would be endless, and as long as his own life force existed, the small world would exist forever. As time passed, more and more powerful creatures would appear in the small world, and his own power would also become stronger, until he became the true creator of a world. However, after the demon saint was sealed, his small world had basically been abandoned. Everything that was born here had also turned into ashes with the passage of time. The strong wind blew nonstop. Su Yun took a deep breath and slowly walked forward, but before he could take a few steps, his nose smelled a slightly dense soul power. His entire body trembled, and he followed the power and started running. In less than 10 miles, a gigantic spirit mountain appeared in his line of sight. The spirit mountain emitted a weak light, adding a bit of color to the dark world. Su Yun stared. The entire spirit mountain was wrapped in a powerful soul power. The soul light was resplendent. The powerful soul power seemed to be able to resonate with his own soul. This must be the soul of the demon saint. Su Yun was overjoyed. He immediately rushed over, pulled out the Heaven Destroyer sword, and attached a trace of ominous sword chi to the sword edge. After entering the God-sealing realm, Su Yun could easily control the ominous sword chi and would not be devoured by it. However, if the ominous sword chi invaded his body, then no matter how high his realm was, he would not be able to resist it. However, when the sword was taken out, the gigantic spirit mountain remained the same, without the slightest change. Su Yun was startled. As though he had sensed something, he immediately landed on the spirit mountain, extended his hand and pressed it, closing his eyes to sense the situation inside, and in the next second his face became ugly. Undead? This gigantic spirit mountain was just an illusion. It was a fake scene deliberately created by someone. It was impossible for it to be the soul of the demon saint. What the hell was going on? Su Yun looked around. His eyes flickered. As though he had thought of something, he leaped up and soared into the sky. Very quickly, his heart was completely shocked. After rising high into the sky, he discovered that there were countless spirit mountains around the spirit mountain. The soul power between each spirit mountain was not fused. They were arranged in an orderly manner and scattered throughout the small world. What was going on? Su Yun leaped and landed on the other spirit mountains. He discovered that the soul power on these spirit mountains were all illusions. Everything seemed real and illusory, making it difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. His eyes flashed as he increased his speed and circled around the small world. Very quickly, his state of mind became cold. There were a total of 400 spirit mountains. Moreover, from the position and order of their arrangement, it did not seem like a formation barrier at all. Was this all done by the demon saint? Where was the soul of the demon saint sleeping? Chapter 1474. What was the purpose of the demon saint setting up so many fake spirit mountains? Was it to set up a formation to guard against the original ancestor? But it didn't look like it, and the spirit mountain was extremely weak, so it wouldn't be difficult to destroy it. Just then, Su Yun's gaze seemed to have swept across something. He rushed towards the nearest spirit mountain, only to see that the surroundings of the spirit mountain were filled with spars. These were spars that were completely condensed from the demon saint's own power. They were filled with terrifying devil chi. He crushed the spars and felt the energy inside. Terrifying soul power. If I didn't have the blood of the devil cultivator in my body, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to feel the authenticity of this soul power. Su Yun thought. Although he could easily determine that these spirit mountains were fake, people who were not demons would not be able to do so. Not even the original ancestor. Wait, could this be a confusion? Su Yun's heart suddenly surged with such a bold idea. He looked around. 400 spirit mountains was actually not a lot, but if these spirit mountains were not as sturdy as they looked on the surface, then it would be different. He took a deep breath, raised the heaven-exterminating sword, and fiercely slashed at a spirit mountain. However, an unexpected scene happened. The place where the spirit mountain was slashed, the damaged area was actually quickly healing, as if a living creature had the power to regenerate. Su Yun consecutively slashed out a few times. The sword was fierce. The sword chi exploded, but just as the spirit mountain was torn apart, in just a few breaths of time, the entire spirit mountain was as good as before. With such a terrifying healing ability, it would be impossible to destroy it. Su Yun looked around. He could not find any traces of the demon saint's soul. So how could he wake it up? The original ancestor was still fighting with the sect master, and there was not much time left. If this continued, the situation would only get worse. Su Yun was a little anxious. He tried his best to breathe, calming his chaotic heart. The more critical the situation was, the more he could not panic. Su Yun, who was in the God-sealing realm, could easily control his mind. If the demon saint had set up the fake spirit mountain just to confuse the ancestor, then one of the fake spirit mountains should be the real demon saint's soul. It was impossible for the demon saint to seal his soul forever. He knew that the descendants of the true devil world would come to rescue him, so he would definitely leave a hint. Su Yun thought. Suddenly he thought of something. He leaped up and landed in the sky, then opened his eyes wide. Devil power gathered in his eyes, and his pupils immediately turned blood red. Opening the demon eye, the demon chi overflowing from the spirit mountains below could be seen clearly. The entire spirit mountains were filled with demon chi that rose and swirled around. It seemed like nothing had changed, but the demon chi in one of the spirit mountains caught his attention. The devil chi, there seemed to be the word fong. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not. Su Yun noted it down and looked towards the other spirit mountains. Soon, the fiend chi of another spirit mountain slowly drifted and gathered to form the word bit. Su Yun stared at it again, and not long after, another word came out. As expected, he was overjoyed. These 400 spirit mountains were indeed to confuse the ancestor. Through the demon eye, he could see the direction of the devil chi, and the devil chi would intentionally or unintentionally give birth to some words. These words were arranged according to the location of the spirit mountain, which was the information that the demon saint had left behind for the devil cultivator. After half an incense stick of time, the words formed by the devil chi on the spirit mountains were all revealed. Although there were 400 spirit mountains, not every one of them could form words with devil chi. This was probably a cover-up. Through the information given by the demon saint, Su Yun immediately determined a location and anxiously rushed over. It was a spirit mountain located at the westernmost side and was no different from the other spirit mountains. Su Yun thought for a moment, then raised his sword and slashed towards the spirit mountain. Boom! The terrifying sword chi struck the spirit mountain, causing it to buzz and the entire small world to tremble. However, without any mishaps, the broken part of the spirit mountain was completely healed in the blink of an eye. It was probably impossible to break through the spirit mountain with brute force. Su Yun landed and circled around the spirit mountain. The demon saint must have left some kind of message inside. He pondered as he looked around the spirit mountain, searching for something. Very quickly, His gaze landed on a different type of crystal stone. This crystal stone was rather eye-catching. If one looked at it with a normal gaze, they would not be able to see anything. But if they opened their demon eye, they would be able to discover that the devil chi that it was emitting would occasionally turn into the shape of a small person. Was this a coincidence? No. From the looks of it, it was not a coincidence. It was done deliberately by the demon saint. Su Yun was excited. He immediately walked over and picked up the stone, closing his eyes to feel it. One astonishing soul power. Su Yun suddenly woke up. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat. The moment his soul power seeped into the stone, it was immediately blasted out, unable to rush inside. And at the same time, a deep voice came out from Su Yun's mind. Who? Hearing that, Su Yun was overjoyed and anxiously asked, "Is it Lord Demon Saint? Who are you?" The voice was ice cold. "Junior Su Yun, I am the Demon Lord of the true Devil Realm. This time, I have come to save Lord Demon Saint. Previously, Sect Master Cheong broke the seal on your body, but your body has already been refined by the origin ancestor, and it is difficult for your soul to be awakened through your body. Sect Master has no other choice, so he let me personally enter your small world to wake you up." Su Yun said with a smile. If the Demon Saint were to wake up, then everything would be much easier. Back then, the Demon Saint was able to rely on the power of the demon realm to force the immortal realm to compromise. It could be seen how astonishing his methods were, at least not something that Su Yun could compare to. "Is that so?" The Demon Saint was silent for a moment. Then his voice came out again. "You have traces of my power on you. It seems like you have obtained something that I left behind in the demon realm. You should be from the true devil realm. Lord Demon Saint, the situation is critical now. The Sect Master is still fighting with the original ancestor outside. What should we do now?" Su Yun asked anxiously. However, the Demon Saint fell into silence again and did not speak for a long time. Su Yun opened his mouth, but just as he was about to say something, the voice in his mind sounded out. "I don't know how long I've been sleeping for, but in my sleep, I can feel a lot of powerful devil chi surrounding me. I guess that it must be an expert from the true devil realm who has come to save me, but I really want to tell them that there's no need to do this because everything is in vain." The Demon Saint's voice was somewhat hoarse. Su Yun was startled. In vain? Back then, when I was ambushed, I was almost killed by the great demon slaughtering formation set up by the ancient great immortals of the immortal world, and my body was almost destroyed, and my soul was in danger. I had to rely on the ancient Emperor Stone that Master left behind to seal my body, and then use my soul to leave my body and directly reside within it. And I was able to preserve my life. But when I checked later on, I discovered that my soul had long since separated from my body, or rather, after this body was attached to the ancient Emperor Stone, it was no longer a body, but a true piece of stone. My soul can no longer return to my body. It is completely dead. Hearing these words, Su Yun's heart felt as if it had been struck by lightning. He was extremely shocked. He stared blankly at the stone in his hand and opened his mouth. How could this be? I could have left at any time, but I discovered that the main person who framed me, the ancestor, did not leave. My soul secretly observed him and discovered that he was unable to destroy my body and was worried that I would revive, so I waited here. In fact, I had already discovered that he was refining my body, hoping to completely refine my body into a magic treasure and seal my soul forever. But with his strength, he was still unable to do so. The ancient Emperor Stone was a gem left behind by Master. Even the Ancestor Realm was powerless, but I did not point it out and just continued to waste time. The strength of the Ancestor Realm was not a small matter. If he entered the true Devil Realm would definitely not exist, so I hoped to use his fear of me to restrain him, but all of this could not last forever. There was no true invincible in this world, and my body could not protect my soul forever. Sooner or later, the Ancestor Realm would know that all of this was a scam, and if he knew, he would personally come to the true Devil Realm and raze it to the ground. So I had to think of a way to eliminate this existence of the Ancestor Realm in order to avoid the calamity of the true Devil Realm. But it's not easy. Hearing that, Su Yun became silent. To date, the true devil realm does not have any primogenitor realm cultivators. The strongest great devil is probably the sect leader, but he is obviously not a match for the original ancestor. Su Yun said in a low voice. Su Yun was unable to pry into the aura of the original ancestor. If immortals are the gods of mortals, then the primogenitors are the gods of immortals. For a race to have a primogenitor, it means that the race is already risen. However, the primogenitor is the strongest backing of a race. Unless it is a war of extermination, the primogenitors will not interfere in the battle, just like the war between immortals and devils back then. Actually, the reason why I agreed to negotiate with them back then was also because there was more than one primogenitor in the immortal realm. If the war really escalated to a war of extermination, the one who lost would definitely be our true devil realm. But if they angered me, we could destroy the jade and stone together with the immortal realm. The people of the immortal realm were afraid, and the supreme experts led by the origin ancestor came up with a series of plans to frame me, intending to get rid of me. The people of the immortal realm had been at ease for too long, and could not tolerate any existence that could threaten them appearing in this world. What made me feel helpless was that those primogenitor existences actually had the same idea. But now, we no longer have any ancestors. The ancestors are unable to contend against them. Su Yun said, Primogenitor isn't born with it. It's also a person who walks step by step. Demon King, since you, Qi Qiong, let you in, I think he must have his reasons. I'm crippled now, and it's impossible for me to return to my former glory. I'll help you quickly advance to the primogenitor realm. I hope that from today onwards, you could be the primogenitor of the true devil realm, keeping the myriad worlds in check and protecting the true devil realm. At this time, the demon saint said very seriously. Chapter 1475. Hearing that, Su Yun was completely stunned. Lord Demon Saint, what did you say? I want you to accept my inheritance, obtain my memories, the demon saint said in a low voice. This. Su Yun recovered from his shock and looked at the stone in his hand, his heart in a mess. You are not a devil cultivator in the first place, but you have received the kindness of the devil cultivator. You are clear about gratitude and grudges, and know how to repay kindness. And that is why you help the true devil realm. I know all of this, but there's an unexpected opportunity that actually lies with you. I believe that it is not a coincidence that you appeared here to meet me. Demon Lord, no matter what, you must accept my inheritance. Opportunity? What opportunity? Su Yun took a deep breath and asked softly. The blood in your body. Devil blood. Su Yun was startled, then suddenly understood. You are destined to step into the primogenitor realm, but without anyone to guide you, your growth will be very slow. Demon Lord, you must know better than me how much responsibility you have to shoulder. If not, you would not be so happy to see me, because you have always placed your hopes on me. In fact, you do not need to be like this. People should rely on themselves, not on others. As he spoke, the stone in Su Yun's hand gradually cracked open, and rays of strange black light shot out from within. This black light was extremely unique. It tore through the sky and converged into a unique black shadow. Although it was only a soul, the demonic nature that was imprinted in the depths of his soul was still very clear. Su Yun looked at the demon saint, and the demon saint also looked at Su Yun. This was a very ordinary person, completely different from the statue. He did not have a handsome appearance, nor did he have an outstanding temperament, but he had an incomparable, unique charm. With just a glance, it made people feel that he was extraordinary. Was this the real demon saint? Although my cultivation is sealed in my body, the strongest part of the ancestor's existence is not my cultivation, but his thoughts and perception, the heart and spirit that he cultivates. These are the main points that the ancestor has spent many years cultivating, and now, Demon Lord, I will pass on all of my cultivation to you. You will not disappoint the will of my devil Tao. As the demon saint's voice fell, his body began to release threads of strange devil power that continuously surged towards Su Yun's body. Su Yun did not make a sound. He closed his eyes and focused on absorbing the energy. Yes, He desired power more than anyone else. He knew very well what kind of situation he was in. Without power, only death awaited him. Carefully feel everything I've given you. Only I have the right to tell you what the true power of a devil is. The demon saint said in a low voice. Suddenly, the power of the soul surged, and the magical little world collapsed in an instant. Everything began to shrink, and the 400 spirit mountains withered like withered flowers. All of Su Yun's meridians and tendons expanded as his eyes widened. He could feel the strange thoughts and comprehension crazily surging into his mind and soul. There was no tangible power, but gave him everything a progenitor realm expert had other than power. This was something even more precious than power. Wah! A terrifying, destructive wind blew on the deserted island. The entire graveyard of immortals and demons was torn apart by this terrifying wind. Two figures intersected in the center of the deserted island. Terrifying spells exploded, and within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, all the immortals were affected. The space here was completely shattered, and everyone in the celestial world could hear the sounds of their battle. More and more immortals rushed over, but they did not dare to get close. The eruption of a battle between ancestors was extremely exciting. It was something that could not be seen even once in 10 million years. Every battle between ancestors could change the fate of the myriad worlds, and also foretold the arrival of a calamity. Everyone was filled with worry and wanted to know which two progenitors were fighting. However, the area within a radius of 500,000 kilometers had become the area affected by their spells. Existences at the Void End realm couldn't even last 100 breaths of time inside, and only deification realm powerhouses could enter. The celestial world was completely shaken. More than 100 immortal sects were heading over. Countless experts had gathered, and it was extremely lively. Even in Su Yun's encampment, Qin Xianlong led a group of elites and rushed over. He was ordered by the Sword Ancestor to investigate the situation, since Su Yun and the sect master had already gone to the graveyard of immortals and demons to save the demon saint. They guessed that the battle between the ancestors was most likely caused by Su Yun and the sect master. However, they never thought that the sect master had already reached the level of a terrifying ancestor. When the terrifying devil cultivator technique exploded in the graveyard of immortals and the demonic chi that covered the sky spread out, all the immortals were completely shocked. Devil chi, devil cultivator. Among the two people fighting, one was actually a devil cultivator. Could it be that the true devil realm is really going to rise? Other than the demon saint back then, no one else in the true devil realm has such a realm. How could this be? These immortals were all shocked. They seemed to have recalled the scene of them being trampled on by the true devil realm's army. For the immortals who were once immersed in glory, that period of time was simply a time that they did not dare to recall. The immortals had always been the rulers of the myriad worlds, the supreme existences of the myriad worlds. It was not until the birth of the devil world and the rise of the demons that they understood that the immortal world was not the sole ruler of the myriad worlds. The living beings of the myriad worlds could not be controlled by them alone. If this continued, the scene from back then would probably reappear. He had to stop the devil cultivator. The immortals started to get restless. If it was said that they did not pay enough attention to the devil cultivator before, it was because the true devil realm had already been destroyed in the battle of the immortal court, and there were no decent people in the true devil realm, so the great demons did not dare to make a move. But now that an ancestor-level existence had appeared, if they still did not make a move, wouldn't it be too foolish? It seems like the situation is much more serious than I imagined. A grand voice came from afar. Everyone looked over, only to see a large number of people from Yao Tian Hai flying over, and the person in the lead was a 3-meter-tall old man dressed in a white robe with white hair and a white beard. The old man wore a pair of white gloves on his hands, which were extremely strange, and he flew over with an extremely solemn expression. When they saw this person appear, the surrounding people all revealed astonished expressions. Jade Profound Mirror? Profound Realm True God is here too? What? The Jade Profound Mirror is here? Oh my god, that's an expert at the peak of the god realm. A person who can cover the sky with one hand in the entire immortal world. What exactly happened in the immortal devil graveyard? Why are there so many experts gathered here? Cries of surprise rose and fell one after another. People could not believe what they were seeing. Almost all of the elites of Yao Tianhai have appeared. Yao Tianhai has already used the power of the entire sect, but why are they here? An immortal said to his companion in a low voice. Quickly inform the sect leader of this matter. It would be best if the sect leader personally came to take a look. All right, people began to stir. The Jade Profound Mirror also appeared. The situation was clearly not simple. These immortal sects all mobilized the strongest forces of their sects, preparing to deal with what was about to happen. But at this moment, a destructive wave of air suddenly blew over from afar, like a tsunami pouncing over here. Be careful! Roars sounded, and countless colorful spells rose up, wanting to resist the destructive wave of air. But this wave of air was simply unreasonably powerful. The protective spells cast by existences below the origin deity realm were almost instantly broken by the destructive wave of air. People were swallowed by the wave of air, directly drowning and dying miserably. And existences at the origin deity realm could not completely resist it, and could not hold on for more than a few breaths. Go! Someone shouted. The crowd began to retreat. Even the Jade Profound Mirror was retreating. This wave of air was definitely the aftermath of the battle between the primogenitor experts, but these immortals were helpless in the face of such aftermath. This was the difference in strength. The existence of the primogenitor in front of these immortals was like a god standing in front of an ant. People once again exploded for hundreds of thousands of miles before the wave of air weakened. The Jade Profound Mirror used the power of creation, dispersing the wave of air that was not considered strong, and then brought people closer to the graveyard of immortals and demons. Although people did not know what exactly happened inside, they would rather risk their lives to wait here, because once an opportunity appeared, as long as they grasped it, it was inevitable that they would soar to the sky. Even the Jade Profound Mirror was very concerned. If she could obtain some of the primogenitor's treasures, it might be of great help to her in breaking through to the primogenitor realm. And at this moment, in the graveyard of immortals and demons, primogenitor and sect master were still locked in battle. Except for a small piece of land around Demon Saint that was not destroyed, the entire graveyard of immortals and demons had already turned into dust. The two stood in the void, facing each other. They constantly drove the small world in their bodies, displaying the terrifying power of the primogenitor in a frenzy. However, Sect Master Qi Qiong was clearly being suppressed. His power of the primogenitor came from the burning of his own demon blood, and the small world in his body was formed in a hurry, almost without any development. Unlike the small world in primogenitor's body, which had experienced countless years of evolution, it was now extremely powerful. In a head-on battle, he was no longer a match for primogenitor. Primogenitor's lips curled into a cold smile, and he said in a low voice, "It's over. You are no match for me at all." As soon as he finished speaking, he blinked his eyes, and the void around Qi Qiong exploded. Large amounts of lightning rushed out of the void, binding his body like iron chains. In just a blink of an eye, he was able to display such a terrifying spell. Qi Qiong did not say a word. He gritted his teeth and continued to drive the small world to attack primogenitor. In fact, primogenitor knew from the beginning that Qi Qiong did not care about his own life at all. The only reason he was doing this was to buy time for the person who had entered Demon Saint's small world. He had to get rid of this person as soon as possible. Primogenitor suddenly roared, and half of the small world in his body collapsed on its own. The collapsed small world released an endless amount of terrifying power, which gathered in the palm of his hand, and along with his body, he attacked Qi Qiong. The terrifying punch, which could not be described with words, approached Qi Qiong in an instant. Chapter 1476. Dong! A terrifying explosion resounded through the world of immortals. All living beings felt their eardrums vibrate, their souls shaken, and it was very uncomfortable. With the graveyard of immortals and demons as the center, an even more earth-shattering explosion occurred. A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky, followed by a destructive wave even more terrifying than before that swept out in all directions. Wherever the wave passed, there was complete peace. Seeing this, the people of Jade Sky Sea retreated again. Even Jade Xianjing was pushed back by this terrifying power. Many of the weaker immortals collapsed to the ground, their souls pulled into a deep dread by the progenitor's power. It was difficult for them to walk out of the shadow. Even more people were so shocked that they couldn't recover from their shock. Even though they couldn't see the battle with their own eyes, just the terrifying aura that constantly seeped out wasn't something they could bear. They didn't even dare to imagine just how much destructive power the progenitor's every move was. The world of immortals trembled lightly. The entire world seemed to have become a battlefield that belonged only to these two people. Everyone else was a foil. They were the true masters of the world of immortals. The people of Jade Sky Sea retreated to a certain safe area before stopping. Sect leader, what should we do now? An expert from Jade Sky Sea asked. Wait. Jade Xianjing spat out one word. But at this time, many figures with strong auras advanced in this direction. These people were all elites at the peak of the Ascension Realm, for 5 of them. The world of immortals was huge, and though there weren't many who stepped into the Ascension Realm, there was still a certain number. However, those who stopped at the peak of the Ascension Realm were almost everywhere. Many people couldn't cross this realm until the end of their lives. Thus, any opportunity related to the progenitor's realm would attract countless Ascension Realm existences. As long as one could step into the progenitor's realm, they would truly live as long as heaven and earth, shine as bright as the sun and moon. At that time, not to mention the ruler of the world of immortals, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were the ruler of all worlds. Now that 2 progenitors had appeared, how could they just stand by and watch? Divine Pedestal Ancestor Yuan Tianxia, Lone Immortal Drunken Carefree, Great Emperor Dao Shi of Blade Realm, Emperor Huan Yu of Daiming Immortal Villa, and Wenren Yi Jian of Divine Pedestal Realm. These are all people at the peak of the Ascension Realm. I didn't think that today's matter would draw all these old antiques out. Jade Xuanjing's expression froze. In that case, things wouldn't be so simple. These were the pillars of the immortal world, the great immortals who stood shoulder to shoulder with the great devils. They were the source of fear for the myriad worlds. Spirit Pedestal Ancestor Yuan Tianxia ignored everyone and flew to the forefront alone. He took out a huge mirror and threw it into the air, activating the power of creation and activating this treasure. Divine item, water moon flower and mirror? Someone exclaimed. Everyone turned to look at the mirror, only to see that the mirror was illusory. Sometimes the image of the sun and the moon appeared, and sometimes it was chaotic. Not long after, a hazy image appeared in the mirror. It was the image of the battle in the graveyard of immortals and demons. Lord Progenitor? There's another demon dweller? When the crowd saw the person on the screen, they were stunned. The demonic man was obviously at his wit's end after being continuously suppressed by Ancestor Origin. However, Ancestor Origin wasn't in a good state either. One of his arms had already been crippled, and the energy in the small world had been consumed too much. It was actually unable to help him regrow his broken arm. However, the outcome was clearly about to be decided. Ancestor Origin seemed to have sensed that someone was using a treasure to observe the battle here. He snorted coldly, and a sound wave came from the graveyard of immortals and demons, directly shaking this water moon flower and mirror. The mirror instantly shattered, completely damaged. Spirit Pedestal Ancestor's chest heaved, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The corner of his mouth twitched, feeling heartache and pain all over. The Spirit Pedestal Ancestor was even more dumbfounded, unable to believe it. When the elites saw this, they sneered inwardly. Spirit Pedestal Ancestor was truly arrogant. Using a spying item in front of the progenitor would not only offend the progenitor, but also not gain any benefits. Water, moon, flower, and mirror was a divine item, and now that it was destroyed, it was spirit pedestal ancestors' own fault. Everyone, calm down. After Lord Progenitor beheads that demon dweller, we'll go together and protect Lord Progenitor. If Lord Progenitor is happy and is willing to reward us with some items of that demon dweller, that would naturally be our fortune. However, if some idiot still shows off in front of the Progenitor and angers Lord Progenitor, then not only would Lord Progenitor not forgive him, we wouldn't agree either. At this time, Jade Xian Mirror suddenly spoke indifferently, its voice piercing to the ears. The meaning of her words was self-evident. Spirit pedestal ancestors stared coldly at Jade Xian Mirror, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Those spirit pedestal ancestor all rushed up, but was stopped by him. Who Jade Xian Mirror was referring to, everyone was well aware. Sect Leader Yao is right. Let's wait a little longer. Everyone should have seen the scene shown by Ancestor's Treasure just now. That demon dweller won't last long, and I believe that before sunset, the victor will be decided. Right. Laughter erupted. Everyone waited quietly. At this stage, the fighting was no longer as intense as before. Even if a few waves of destruction came, they would be dissolved by the combined efforts of these conferred deity tier elites. Everyone was apprehensive and had different thoughts, anxiously waiting for the result. Once the battle ended, they would rush over at the first instant, and now they didn't dare to act rashly. Although the Progenitor was only one step away from the peak of conferred deity tier, the difference was like heaven and earth. Any of the Primogenitor's spells could take their lives. At this moment, in the tomb of immortals and demons, Qi Qiong had already retreated to the side of the demon saint's flesh. He supported himself with one hand on the ground, panting heavily. His skin was cracked all over, and his hair was disheveled. He looked extremely pathetic, and the small world inside his body was also mostly destroyed. Although the Progenitor was injured, it was clearly not as serious as Qi Qiong. The victor has been decided. The Progenitor's face was twisted as he walked towards Qi Qiong. He needed to devour the small world inside Qi Qiong before it completely collapsed. Only then could he successfully increase the strength of his own small world, allowing it to develop better, until the small world transformed and then entered the final realm. That was a realm that no one had reached before. Although no one knew what realm it was, the Progenitor had always hoped that he would step into that realm, just like the first person to step into the Progenitor realm. Realms were endless, and true elites referred to those who forever walked at the forefront of all life, giants that could explore the unknown. I'm not dead yet. How can the victor be decided? Qi Qiong stood up with difficulty. His eyes were bloodshot, and his body was still overflowing with demonic qi. You still want to struggle? The Progenitor frowned and suddenly struck out with his palm. The palm wind swept out, and Qi Qiong could not withstand it. The surrounding void shattered, and even his arms were crushed into powder. Layers of demonic shadows. Qi Qiong roared, and the demonic qi all over his body rose into the air, turning into millions of demonic shadows that pounced towards the Progenitor. Mystic tiger roars to the sky. The Progenitor opened his mouth again, and the mysterious white tiger flew out of it. It flew into the sky and devoured the millions of demonic shadows. You have no idea how big the gap between you and me is. Give up, become a part of my body, and live eternally in my will. The first ancestor laughed coldly as his figure suddenly vanished, and he'd already descended before Qi Qiong when he appeared once more. He raised his hand and fiercely clawed at Qi Qiong's chest, and he actually intended to dig out the small world within Qi Qiong's body. Puffed. Qi Qiong's hand sank into it. Qi Qiong's body trembled, and he had completely lost the ability to resist. After all, he was not in the Progenitor realm. Even if he burned all his demonic blood, he could not resist the Progenitor. But was it really going to end like this? At this moment, the Progenitor suddenly felt a terrifying demonic qi that he had never felt before. Then, his soul suddenly trembled, as if it was shaken by something. The progenitor was shocked. He looked up and saw Qi Qiong suddenly open his mouth and pounce at him with a ferocious expression. Bastard! The progenitor was furious. He struck out with his palm, intending to smash Qi Qiong into pieces. But the moment the palm struck out, Qi Qiong's body shone with black light. Self-destruct? The progenitor was stunned. Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded, and the area within 100,000 miles, with a graveyard of immortals and demons as the center, was instantly distorted. The destructive air waves turned into thousands of waves, spreading out from the graveyard of immortals and demons, and bombarding the entire celestial realm. The celestial realm shook violently, and the celestials were bearing the impact of the fall of a progenitor. This moment was the end of the celestial realm. Countless people and things were buried under the destructive airwaves. The demonic chi and demonic chi spread throughout the celestial realm, turning it into a chaotic world. The end. The true end of the world. Before the explosion, it had already been quietly formed. Such a terrifying impact would shake the 10,000 worlds. This is when Yao Tianhai, the divine pedestal ancestor, and the others saw this. They turned pale with fright and hurriedly activated their magic treasures to block. All the people in the god realm joined in, frantically resisting the impact. There were 10,000 destructive waves of air, which were terrifying beyond compare. They had never faced such a powerful wave of air in their lives. Everyone used their full strength, not holding back in the slightest. In the face of such a terrifying impact, if they still held back, they would only die. This was a true moment of life and death. The great demons in Su Yun's encampment also rushed out at this moment, surrounding the encampment as the center, releasing their devil power to envelop the encampment. The terrifying devil power enveloped the encampment, and the immortals in the encampment did not know the reason. They thought that an enemy was attacking, and were extremely nervous until the wave of air bombarded them. This is a whale. An expert has fallen. Sword Ancestor ran to the edge of the encampment, looking at the destructive waves of air that were attacking the encampment, his face pale. He could feel a strong demonic aura from these waves of air. This expert, was he related to the devil? The ninth heaven. A quasi-progenitor has fallen, and the structure of the 10,000 worlds has been broken. Everything is about to be reshuffled. This 10,000 worlds needs a true master to control it. A low voice resounded through the ninth heaven, and countless terrifying immortals were awakened from their slumber. At this moment, the celestial realm was in turmoil, and the 10,000 worlds were in turmoil. Chapter 1477. Boom! Inside the small world, Su Yun, who was still comprehending the concept of the demon saint, suddenly felt a violent tremor, followed by a deafening explosion. He was shocked, but at such a critical juncture, he naturally could not stop and continue to comprehend. The mind of the demon saint bore almost everything he had experienced since he was born. Everything he had seen and heard, everything he had comprehended and thought, all of his doubts were suddenly enlightened. The demon saint imparted the Tao to dispel his doubts, opened up the spirit platform for Su Yun, and refined his soul. The demon saint's powerful soul force seeped into his body, and the huge small world also slowly shrank, until finally it turned into a pitch-black pearl, appearing in Su Yun's chest, and then slowly squeezed in. Dong! When the pearl entered Su Yun's chest, it immediately exploded and completely fused Su Yun's internal organs. Following that, a strange space appeared beside Su Yun's heart, and then, in this space, a small tree slowly grew, and in the pitch-black world, it was extremely eye-catching. This is my world. Su Yun slowly opened his eyes and looked at the demon saint's soul in front of him, which was extremely thin. Yes, the demon saint nodded his head. Although you do not have the primogenitor realm, your thoughts already have the thoughts of the primogenitor, and your state of mind is also the state of mind of the primogenitor, and you have grasped countless of the primogenitor's abilities, but you are unable to completely use them. In truth, not only can you use the power of creation, you can also use the power of the primogenitor, but your power of the primogenitor is still not perfect. This small world is my gift to you. With the stimulation of the small world, you will be able to step into the primogenitor's cultivation in a very short period of time. Of course, you still need to continue to work hard. You must not stop moving forward. Give up on your heart, and never forget your original intention. The demon saint said, and then the thin figure also started to jump into Su Yun's body. In that moment, the small tree in Su Yun's heart seemed to have gone crazy. It continued to grow, and after a while, it had become a huge tree that could support the sky. A few of its roots congealed out of the soil. Flowers and plants grew on the soil and continued to spread in all directions. Su Yun realized that his internal organs had also turned into mountains and rivers. His blood vessels had turned into rivers. Everything was changing. With a thought, the world his body had already begun to take shape, and at the same time, the small world continuously produced a mysterious power. Although it was extremely thin, Su Yun could clearly feel it. The power of the primogenitor. Su Yun, the situation outside is very complicated. Stay in my body and recuperate for as long as you can. Stabilize the power in your body, and then wait for an opportunity to leave. Do you understand? The demon saint's voice sounded again, but this time it was abnormally weak. Lord Devil Saint, the sect leader, is still outside. I must go out and support him. Su Yun said, No need. My junior brother. He's already dead. The demon saint said slowly, his voice hoarse. Su Yun, the sect master was dead? Su Yun's mind trembled. He found it hard to accept the news. Su Dragon, no one would be able to accept such a sudden piece of news. Saint God Yin King I Su I Yin Bai I Su I Wang I. If you have the heart, then immediately stabilize your state of mind. Don't be sad, and consolidate the power that I've given you. When you're born, you can slaughter all those who betrayed you, kill all those you want to kill, and avenge those who died. The demon saint's voice gradually weakened, until the last strand of his soul entered Su Yun's body. Su Yun slowly closed his eyes. He could no longer feel the existence of the demon saint. Other than the demon ancestor, the two strongest great devils in the true devil realm had fallen today. This so-called graveyard of immortals and devils had already become the graveyard of the devils. But very quickly, it would also become the graveyard of the immortals. Su Yun's entire body released killing intent, and he became quiet. Cough, 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 cough. A series of violent coughs sounded out like thunder, startling the immortals who were rushing towards the graveyard of immortals and devils. The surroundings were filled with a terrifying, destructive aura. If one did not have the protection of the aura, they would definitely be corroded. Not even a wisp of cloud could be seen around the entire graveyard of immortals and devils. It was all purged, the space distorted, and the terrifying scene of the battlefield stimulated everyone's nerves. Jade Mystery Mirror's speed was very fast. He had prepared his treasures in advance and led his disciples in a mad charge. Meanwhile, spiritual pedestal ancestor, Happy Drunk, Wenren Yi Jian, and the others were not to be outdone and rushed over in a frenzy. They wanted to fight for a relationship, a chance to get closer to the ancestor. Senior, are you all right? Yao Xinjing was the first to rush over, leading his disciples to land here, and hurriedly bowed to the ancestor. Senior seems to have been injured. I have already prepared the best medicinal pills here. Although these are nothing in the eyes of Senior, this is a little token of our spirit pedestal. Please do not regard us as outsiders. Elder Spirit Pedestal also rushed over, holding a box in both hands, and walked towards the ancestor. Senior ancestor, my father once met you. Today we came late. Please forgive us. Although my father passed away, he always mentioned Senior to me. This thing was given to you by my father. It is a divine item for healing. Senior, please use it. Senior, I have a 10,000-year-old jade bead here. Even apotheosis tier existences can use it to easily recover their physical body and heal injuries. I believe it is also somewhat effective for ancestor tier existences. Senior, please accept it. People rushed to offer their treasures, fearing that they would be slower than others. As the saying went, it was better to provide timely assistance than to add flowers to embroidery. In the past, the ancestor guarded the corpse alone in the graveyard of immortals and devils, and no one went to disturb him. Now that the ancestor was injured, how could they not take the opportunity to curry favor? If they could obtain the protection of an ancestor, the myriad worlds would be at their mercy, and no one would dare to be impudent. The people of the ancestor were already the masters of the myriad worlds in name. Seeing this, the ancestor laughed loudly and did not stand on ceremony. With a wave of his hand, he collected all the treasures. Good, good. Ha. I am very happy that you have such intentions. However, I cannot rely on this to recover from my injuries. I need an abundance of origin energy to replenish my body and nourish the small world in my body. Only then will I be able to recover faster. It's like fertilizing the land. Do you understand? The ancestor laughed, his eyes narrowed, and his gaze swept across the immortals present. When everyone heard this, they immediately frowned, and some of the disciples were even more frightened. The ancestor's words were not obscure. On the contrary, they were very straightforward. If he wanted to heal, just relying on medicine was not enough. He still needed people. He needed to directly absorb immortals to replenish his consumption. This method was extremely terrifying, and immortals should not have it. However, the ancestor was all-encompassing, and the methods he knew were unimaginable. At this time, it was time to test these people. Let me make it clear first. I don't want anyone below the 9th grade of Spirit Profound God. A low cultivation is worthless in my eyes. With his hands behind his back, the ancestor stared at these people and sneered. He didn't want anyone below the 9th grade of Spirit Profound God. In other words, he had to be at least in existence at the peak of Spirit Profound God. Among the people of these sects, the peak of Spirit Profound God were usually elite disciples, and the experts of the Void Returning Realm were almost the pillars of the sect. Qing Shi, Qing Yang, you two go up. At this moment, the divine pedestal ancestor suddenly spoke to the two juniors beside him. These two just happened to be at the peak of Spirit Profound God. They had cultivated for a short time, but their talent was astonishing. Now that they had grown to the peak of Spirit Profound God, they were also very proud. To be able to see the existence of the ancestor today, they were even more excited in their hearts. However, the words of the divine pedestal ancestor made their hearts instantly turn incomparably cold. Ancestor, we cut the crap, you too. Get over here. The divine pedestal ancestor didn't give them a chance to think at all. With a grab of his hands, he threw the two disciples over, and at the same time shouted, "Since senior ancestor has said so, how can this junior not obey?" These two disciples made a mistake some time ago, and still do not repent. Now that they can heal seniors' injuries, it can be considered as making up for their mistakes. Their lives can be considered worth it. Good, good. You're from a divine pedestal ancestor, right? I'll remember it. Ha! The ancestor laughed loudly, opened his mouth, and a suction force rushed out. The two disciples roared and struggled, but were powerless. Their bodies seemed to be pulled, continuously flying towards the ancestor's mouth. And when they neared his mouth, the two corpses cracked at the same time, turning into blood that poured into the ancestor's mouth. The scene was extremely bloody and chilling. When the people of the surrounding sect saw this, they were all silent. The divine pedestal ancestor was so vicious, selling his own disciples almost without batting an eyelid. If these two disciples made a mistake, why would he bring them here? However, the ancestor's words made the people of the divine pedestal ancestor excited. If they could obtain the support of a powerful ancestor, sacrificing two peak Spirit Profound God disciples was worth it. Too worth it. Seeing that the ancestor had already given face to the divine pedestal ancestor, the people of the other sects were naturally itching. The sect leaders and ancestors turned around and began to sweep their gazes around, while the people of the sects began to stir, especially those disciples who already started shouting. Sect leader, don't. For the future of the sect, what's the point of sacrificing this life? If you are willing to be the representative of my sect to heal the ancestor, My Heavenly Sword sect will definitely not forget you. Sect leader, I don't want to die. It wasn't easy for me to cultivate to this stage. I don't want to die. Don't tell me you want to watch the sect fall into decline. You disobedient disciple. You're not even willing to do such a small thing. What do we expect you to do? I'm afraid that in the future, you will also be a cruel and unscrupulous person. So why not sacrifice you today? Contribute to our sect. Sect leader. A furious roar sounded, and a figure was thrown towards the ancestor. The ancestor opened his mouth again and directly killed and absorbed that person. This place quickly turned into a purgatory. Chapter 1478. Why is it like this? What's wrong with these people? The people of Knife region retreated again and again. Great Emperor Dao Shi's eyes were wide open, looking at these crazy sect leaders in astonishment. In order to curry favor with the ancestor, they really didn't hesitate to sacrifice the disciples who had followed their sect for who knew how many years. And they didn't even blink. He turned around to look at his sect members behind him, took a deep breath, and said in a low voice, "You don't have to worry. I'm not as shameless as them. I won't sacrifice you. Ancestor is right. My Knife region will not associate with those people." Hu Qing also shouted in the crowd. Hearing this, the people of Knife region breathed a sigh of relief. But at this moment, a light snort sounded. What? Is Knife region going to stand by and do nothing? Lord Ancestor slayed the great demon for the celestial realm and was injured, now in urgent need of treatment. Your Knife region neither offers tribute nor presents people. What is the meaning of this? Could it be that you look down on Lord Ancestor? The one who spoke was Yao Xianjing, his expression cold as he looked at Great Emperor Dao Shi. People of Knife region, how dare you? If not for Lord Ancestor, our celestial realm would have been finished long ago. Now you enjoy Lord Ancestor's protection, bathing in Lord Ancestor's shade, but not only do you not repay him, you're so disrespectful to Lord Ancestor. It's enough to see that your Knife region is a group of ungrateful people. In my opinion, Knife region should immediately scram. Spirit Pedestal Ancestor also flew over, his expression dark and angry. Insulting my saber's might with you lot. Great Emperor Dao sure didn't want to stay any longer, snorted coldly, and turned to leave. Wait. At this moment, another voice stopped the people of Knife region. Great Emperor Dao Shi looked in the direction of the voice and saw Wenren Yijian flying over with a slender sword. He waved his hand, and the people of Heavenly Sword sect immediately surrounded the people of Knife region. Great Monarch Dao Shi frowned. He stared at Wenren Yijian and said solemnly, Heavenly Sword faction, do you want to see who is stronger today? The discord between Dao region and Heavenly Sword faction was a publicly acknowledged fact in the immortal world. The two sects had been fighting for countless years. Wenren Yijian and Great Emperor Dao Shi were both ancestral masters of their respective sections. They had interacted with each other a long time ago. After relinquishing the position of leader of their sects, the two of them focused on cultivation, chasing after higher realms. However, the grudge between them never ended. Today, when Yijian had stopped Great Emperor Dao Shi, it was likely that he wanted to end things between them. Spirit Pedestal Elder, Happy Drunk, Yao Xianjing, and the others all watched this scene with the mentality of watching a show, and no one interjected. Dao Shi Great Monarch's eyes also emitted a dense battle intent. He had long wanted to determine the victor between him and Wenren Yijian. But at this moment, Wenren Yijian suddenly turned around, cupped his fists at Progenitor, and said, Senior Progenitor, the people of Dao region are so rude, daring to disrespect you. In this humble one's opinion, why don't we all use these people of Dao region as nourishment for Senior to help you recover from your injuries? What do you think? What? Everyone was shocked. Spirit Pedestal Elder, Yao Xianjing, and Happy Drunk were all stunned. They all secretly cursed Wenren Yijian for being so cunning, actually offering up the entire Dao region. If Wenren Yijian helped Progenitor absorb this group of people from Dao region, Progenitor's injuries would definitely be mostly healed, and he would remember Heavenly Sword faction's favor. The people of Dao region were also stunned. Daoshi, Great Emperor, was even more enraged. He stared at Wenren Yijian and roared, "Despicable! You don't dare to fight me. So you use such a despicable method? I have no interest in fighting you. Since you are so disrespectful to Lord Progenitor, you naturally must be punished," Wenren Yijian said indifferently. "You are afraid of my saber." Daoshi, Great Emperor, gritted his teeth. Wenren Yijian didn't say anything. "Ha, good, good. Since these people look down on Lousy, Lousy will reluctantly accept all of them." Progenitor was naturally very interested. With a hint of playfulness in his eyes, he leaped up and landed in front of the people of Dao region. Although Progenitor was injured, he was still a progenitor. Once he released his aura, the people of Dao region found it hard to bear, almost fainting. Only Daoshi, Great Emperor, could still hold on. "Bastard!" Daoshi, Great Emperor, gritted his teeth in anger. However, because of a few words from Wenren Yijian, Dao region fell into such a crisis, becoming the target of public criticism. "All of you, come over obediently. Let me devour and heal. I protected the celestial realm and did not let it perish. I am a guardian. Shouldn't you all make some contributions to the celestial realm?" Progenitor said with a smile, but his voice had a mysterious power that could not be resisted. The disciples of Dao region trembled. Their eyes lost focus as they flew towards Progenitor. Progenitor laughed loudly, opened his mouth again, and began to devour. How could these profound, God-level disciples bear the power of the Progenitor? With a casual word, he could kill them. Daoshi, Great Emperor's eyes were red. With a roar, he rushed towards Progenitor. "Don't you dare hurt my Dao region's disciples. Kill! How dare you?" Progenitor was furious and roared. The sound wave blasted over, causing Daoshi, Great Emperor's body to tremble. The power of creation in his body immediately became chaotic. Is Dao region going to rebel? Wenren Yijian snorted coldly and said in a low voice, "People of Heavenly Sword Sect, listen up. The people of Dao region dare to disrespect Progenitor. This is a great crime. Kill! Kill!" The people of Heavenly Sword Sect were about to attack. Dao region's ambition, kill. Spirit Pedestal Ancestor also shouted. Seeing this, the other celestial sects also joined in. At this time, if they could show off a bit more in front of Progenitor, their relationship with him might improve. "All of you stop." Progenitor sneered and shouted in a low voice, "Leave these people to me. I want to devour them alive. You just need to surround them and not let them escape. I've stayed in the graveyard of immortals and demons for so long. It's very boring. Today is a good time to have some fun." With that, he leaped and charged towards Daoshi, Great Emperor. Daoshi, Great Emperor's anger soared to the heavens. His bloodline surged. Although he was no match for Progenitor, he was not the slightest bit afraid. He pulled out a golden tyrant blade and charged towards Progenitor. But the gap between the Progenitor realm and the peak of the Ascended God realm was still too big. Progenitor actually used his hand to catch the blade. With a flick of his finger, the blade was directly flicked away. Daoshi, Great Emperor, felt his arm tremble. It was very uncomfortable. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the light of the moon? How laughable! Progenitor sneered and suddenly blasted out another palm strike. This palm strike was profound and exquisite. Countless pairs of eyes in the surroundings were actually unable to see this palm clearly. It was as if he hadn't attacked at all, or his palm wasn't in this world anymore. Daoshi, Great Emperor's eyes opened wide as he felt the sudden appearance of killing intent. He immediately raised his blade and swung it, but he was a beat too late. That palm directly struck his chest, and the terrifying Progenitor's power covered his entire body. It tore apart the skin and flesh all over his body, and it just happened to sever all the tendons and meridians in his body, but it didn't harm the slightest bit of the power of creation. This kind of injury couldn't be said to be heavy, but it couldn't be said to be light either. If he spent some time in medicinal pills, he could easily recover. But at this moment, he had truly lost all ability to resist. Your cultivation can't be wasted. The peak of the Ascended God realm is very helpful to my recovery. You should feel fortunate because you will very soon fuse with me. At that time, you will be me and I will be you. Don't you want to enter the progenitor realm? You will be able to very soon. Progenitor laughed savagely. He walked in front of Dao Shi, Great Emperor, and opened his mouth to swallow Dao Shi, Great Emperor. Scram! At this moment, Dao Shi, Great Emperor, suddenly let out a roar, and then his body bloomed with a golden light. A terrifying blade energy flew out of his mouth and directly struck Progenitor's body. Bang! Progenitor was forced back dozens of steps, and a bright red blade mark appeared on his body. He looked especially miserable. It's the will of the blade. This guy actually used his will to forcefully drive the meridian of creation. People exclaimed, "Bastard!" Progenitor was furious. He looked at his miserable self and angrily walked towards Dao Shi, Great Emperor. His eyes were filled with malice, and at this moment, he was in no hurry to eat Dao Shi, Great Emperor. He then slapped towards Dao Shi, Great Emperor, but this palm still didn't want to take his life. Instead, it sealed the power of creation and the power of will in his body, turning him into a completely useless person. Didn't you want to save the people of your Dao realm? I will devour them one by one in front of you, and then I will eat you. You must die today. Progenitor shouted coldly at Dao Shi, Great Emperor. Then he opened his mouth and began to devour the people of Dao realm. The people of Dao realm couldn't resist at all. Many of them didn't even have the void returning realm. So how could they be a match for an existence like Progenitor? Dao Shi, Great Emperor's eyes were red, and his expression was distorted. He roared, but it was useless. At this moment, he was completely suppressed by Progenitor, and he couldn't resist at all. He could only watch helplessly as the descendants of his sect died tragically in front of him. Stop. Quickly stop. Dao Shi, Great Emperor, shouted in despair. At this moment, he realized that even though he was in existence at the peak of the apatheicized realm, he also had such a desperate and powerless moment. People could never stop the pursuit of power. Then, do you want to become a demon? At this moment, a voice suddenly floated into Dao Shi, Great Emperor's mind. Dao Shi, Great Emperor, was stunned. He stared with his blood-red eyes, but he didn't know who was sending a voice transmission into his mind. If I can save Dao realm, I am willing to die a horrible death. Dao Shi, Great Emperor, shouted in his heart. If he died here, Dao realm would be eradicated by Heavenly Sword sect in the future, and everything would end. Therefore, he couldn't die. You must submit to me. I am willing. Dao Shi, Great Emperor, didn't hesitate. At this time, he had no other choice. This was the only path he could take. All right, that strange voice fell, and in an instant, a terrifying demonic aura swept in all directions, instantly enveloping heaven and earth. The immortals raised their heads and looked around. Progenitor also frowned. He looked left and right, and his gaze finally fell on the body of the demon sage that hadn't been destroyed. Chapter 1479. The devil chi leaked out crazily, and the demon saint's body began to crumble like a crumbling statue. Inside, it was already an empty shell, but a black light came out and landed beside it. Inside the black light, a young man slowly walked out. Su-yun. Among these people, someone recognized this person. Oh, the guy who has been in the limelight recently? Why is he here? He's here for the demon saint. But why did the demon saint's body self-destruct? Could it be that he's benefited from the demon saint? Someone said in shock. It must be. His devil chi is so terrifying. It is said that this person has already stepped into the ascended god realm. His talent is unparalleled, and his growth is extremely fast. Since he is a demon, and now he has obtained the demon saint's inheritance, we should quickly eliminate him. Happy Drunk said solemnly. Let's not care about that person for now. Let's kill the traitors of the Blade Domain first. Wunren Ejin said in a low voice. He was most concerned about the life and death of the Blade Domain. If the Blade Domain did not die, then his Heavenly Sword sect would be in trouble in the future. No rush. The ancestor turned around, looked at Su-yun indifferently, and laughed. The devil chi on this person's body has already undergone a qualitative change. I believe that the demon saint has definitely passed on everything to him. I have not waited here bitterly for so many years in vain. Now that the demon saint is dead, no one in the 10,000 worlds can do anything to me. I am already in invincible existence. Invincible? Are you and the demon saint really the only two ancestors in the 10,000 worlds? Su Yin said coldly. There's also a difference between the ancestors, but this is a matter between the ancestors. You are not qualified to ask. The ancestor walked towards Su Yun step by step, the corner of his mouth raised into a sinister smile. Today was the happiest day for him. After so many years of waiting, there was finally a result, and he was finally the one who had the last laugh. I will absorb you first. You have obtained the demon saint's inheritance, so you must have the demon saint's soul in your body. The ancestor's soul is so powerful. Maybe it can help me step into the supreme realm. Ha ha. The ancestor laughed excitedly and raised his hand to grab Su Yun. However, the moment he stretched out his hand, a terrifying primogenitor chi turned into a sharp sword and slashed towards him. Origin Ancestor's smile stiffened, and his expression changed greatly. He hurriedly pulled his hand back, but he was still too careless in the end. He was a beat too slow, and when he pulled his hand back, his palm had already disappeared. It had been completely devoured by the ancestral power, and blood splashed everywhere. What? The founding ancestor was horrified. Progenitor? This is the primogenitor's aura? This person entered progenitor realm. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. Panic shouts rang out incessantly. Previously, the intelligence he had obtained showed that Su Yun was only an early-stage God realm existence. But now he had stepped into the primogenitor realm, instantly crossing a large realm, and it was a realm that many people would never be able to cross in their entire lives. Don't panic, Origin Ancestor roared, his voice shocking the crowd. He's not in progenitor realm. He was definitely not at the progenitor realm. Although he could use the progenitor's power, his power was too weak. I guarantee that he hasn't stepped into the progenitor realm yet. The progenitor said through gritted teeth. He guessed that it must be the demon saint's doing. But even if Su Yun had not entered the progenitor realm, he was still able to use the progenitor's power, and his strength was already terrifying beyond compare. Whether or not I have stepped into the progenitor realm is not important. What's important is that I can kill you. Su Yun's eyes suddenly turned red. He immediately pulled out the heaven-exterminating sword and rushed towards Origin Ancestor. The sect leader had died at his hands, and Su Yun's hatred for him could not be described with words. Even if the demon saint had helped him raise his mental state and comprehended the will of the true Tao, it could not erase the hatred. The heaven-exterminating sword rose, and the sword aura illuminated the world, causing the sky to lose its color. As the sword ascended, killing intent poured into everyone's body. The ancestor's face changed. He anxiously activated the progenitor's power, and a black and white wheel appeared above his head, blocking the heaven-exterminating sword chi. In the end, he was still injured. Although he had swallowed a lot of immortals, he had not digested them yet, so it was difficult for him to deal with Su Yun, who had the power of the progenitor. Arrogant, you're just an ant that has obtained some luck, yet you dare to go against me. I will kill you. Seeing that Su Yun's sword chi was oppressive, the ancestor was enraged. He was originally in existence above all living beings. He could not allow others to attack him. The progenitor's power suddenly erupted, completely dispersing Su Yun's sword chi. With a flip of his palm, the progenitor's power transformed into a universe of stars, enveloping Su Yun. The killing intent between the stars was revealed. He was forcefully pulled into a starry sky, and every star in this starry sky seemed to be an enemy. And at the same time, they launched a terrifying attack at him. A large amount of starlight shone, and Su Yun was submerged in the starlight. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor and the rest of the people from the Blade Domain stared at Su Yun, especially the Daoshi Heavenly Emperor. His heart was beating wildly. When he found out that the one talking to him was Su Yun, he hesitated. Demon, come to save me? Although many immortals were repelling demons, at this point, did they still care about that? The one who wanted to kill him was an immortal. If he could survive and preserve his blade domain bloodline, even if he became a demon, he would not hesitate. But now, could Sion hold on? Other than the original ancestor, there were still many existences at the peak of the god realm. If what the original ancestor said was true, and Su Yun had not reached the primogenitor realm, he would not be able to handle such a situation. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor focused. His heart suddenly became ruthless. As matters stood, there was no way out. Regardless of whether Su Yun could defeat these people, he had to fight. If not, he would be at the mercy of others. Pass down the order. Everyone prepare to fight. Today, we will not rest until one of us dies. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor sent a message to Hu Qing. Hu Qing, who was still in a state of shock, gritted his teeth and nodded, then walked towards the disciples. The original ancestor and Su Yun were excited. The ancestor's power splashed everywhere, causing everyone to retreat, not daring to approach, regardless of whether Su Yun had the ancestor's power or not. Now that he was able to fight with the original ancestor, it proved his strength. How could these people dare to provoke him? The stars disappeared, and Su Yun's figure appeared again, only to see that his entire body was covered by a layer of devil chi armor, blocking the starlight attack. The original ancestor frowned. He recognized this move. It was the demon saint's move. The demon saint had indeed passed everything to Su Yun. This person must die today. If not, he would be another demon saint. The original ancestor's heart erupted with a crazy thought. His expression turned sinister. The ancestor's power on his body suddenly condensed into flames, flying around his body. The surrounding temperature rose crazily. In the blink of an eye, it had risen to over 1,000,000 degrees, and the temperature was still rising. All of this happened in an instant. The immortals with weaker cultivations immediately turned into gas and died, while those with higher cultivations had their bodies ignited in flames. Everyone roared and retreated frantically. The scene immediately became chaotic. Retreat. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor bellowed, and retreated with the people from the Blade Domain. But just at this time, a group of people rushed over. It was the people from the Heavenly Sword sect. Daoshi Heavenly Emperor, didn't you say that you want to see who is stronger in the sword and blade with me? Then let's do it now. One Run E. Jin bellowed, and raised his sword to attack. Despicable. Taking advantage of the fact that my strength is sealed, you want to kill me. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor was about to explode when Ren E. Jin was so vicious. How could he not be angry? But the power of the original ancestor was still in effect, at least half an incense stick of time before it could be removed. The current him could not resist when Ren E. Jin, and no one could resist when Ren E. Jin. The people of the Blade Domain would definitely be slaughtered in half an incense stick of time. Although he had already informed the people of the Blade Domain to rush over to support, it seemed that it would be too late. Whoosh! Just at this time, a large amount of devil chi spread over from afar, followed by an endless amount of baleful aura. The restless immortals were all stunned. They looked over, only to see countless devil cultivator suddenly rushing over. These devil cultivator were actually different from ordinary devil cultivator. Their devil chi was terrifying, directly shaking the soul. Other than the existences of the sealed god realm, no one could compete with them. Great devil, someone exclaimed. They are here to save Su Yun. Stop them. The divine pedestal ancestor shouted. Kill. The immortals directly rushed over. There were so many sects here, far more than these great devils. Why would they be afraid? Old ancestor, what do we do now? Hu Qing looked at the chaotic crowd and asked anxiously. Let's go retreat. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor stared at Wenren Yijian, who was rushing towards him, and shouted loudly, bringing the people of the Blade Domain to fly towards the Devil Cultivator troops. Protect me. I have already pledged my allegiance to Su Yun. In this life, I am willing to serve Su Yun as my lord. Protect me. The Daoshi Heavenly Emperor shouted. When the great devils heard this, they only glanced at the Daoshi Heavenly Emperor indifferently and did not care. At the same time, a person flew out from the troops and landed in front of the Daoshi Heavenly Emperor. Look at me, don't resist. That person shouted. The Daosher Heavenly Emperor was startled. He could not resist, even if he wanted to. He was now a cripple, and even flying depended on the help of his sect. But when he looked at the person's eyes, his entire body immediately surged with a feeling that he was being spied on. He instantly understood this was the mind-reading technique. However, he did not dare to resist. This was the most effective method to prove the truth of his words. Very quickly, the mind-reading technique ended. You retreat, people of the Blade Domain. Follow us to help the demon monarch. That person shouted. Give me half an incense's worth of time to recover. The people of the Blade Domain will turn the world upside down today. The Daosher Heavenly Emperor clenched his teeth and said. Wenren Yi Jian brought the people of the Heavenly Sword sect and rushed over, only to see that the people of the Blade Domain had actually pledged their allegiance to the Devil Cultivator and was immediately annoyed. But he was not discouraged. In terms of strength, the Immortals still had the advantage. Kill! Wenren Yi Jian shouted, and everyone rushed over. Even if you hide behind the Devil Cultivator, so what? After today, the Blade Domain will no longer exist. You are destined to become the dust of history, and no one can save you. Wenren Yi Jian single-handedly rushed towards the Daosher Heavenly Emperor, who was at the back of the Devil Cultivator troops. But just as he moved, two great devils attacked. The terrifying power of creation instantly enveloped him, causing him to break out in cold sweat and frantically retreat. Chapter 1480. Although the true devil realm had declined, the terrifying demons left behind during the Great War of Immortals and Demons had not been completely annihilated. The change in the graveyard of Immortals and Demons had spread throughout the immortal world and the myriad realms. With so many great immortals rushing over, how could the great demons remain indifferent? Su Luluo was still arranging the defenses of the encampment, but he was shocked by the great demons that rushed over. The demon saint represented the last hope of the true devil world. If something happened to the graveyard of the immortal and demon, it would definitely be related to the demon saint. These great demons had worked hard for so many years in hopes of resurrecting the demon saint. How could they allow the immortals to interfere? Immediately, he joined forces with the great demon and Su Yun in the encampment and rushed over. There were also strong and weak great demons. The weaker ones were at the peak of the origin deity realm, and the strong ones were actually terrifying existences at the peak of the God Ascension realm. Looking over, there were actually 10 of them, and there were 2 at the peak of the God Ascension realm. However, this might be the last batch of great demons among the devil dwellers. From the looks of it, the devil realm will disappear along with the devil saint today. You are at the end of your road. Kill! Happy Drunk laughed out loud. He grabbed the wine gourd and pulled it toward the demonkin. The demonkin was immediately sucked into the gourd and turned into true core water, which Happy Drunk drank. Although these devil cultivator are strong, they're still not our match. Everyone, let's compete in killing demons and see who can kill more. What do you think? Di Huanyu of Di Ming Immortal Villa said. All right, these great demons can help us break through. Just in time, the spiritual pedestal ancestor took the lead, targeting a great demon in the early stage of the conferred deity tier, and began to attack. That great demon was currently slaying a person from the ruins of End, and was forced to retreat by the spiritual pedestal ancestor, finding it hard to resist. Even though there were quite a number of great demons, they were still lacking compared to so many experts from the celestial sects. These great immortals were not the entire celestial world. If all the great immortals were to come, there was no way they could fight back. Take the demon saint's body and take the demon monarch away. Don't be obsessed with fighting. A great demon at the peak of the ascendant god realm shouted in a low voice. Hearing that, the other demons nodded and charged forward. But how many immortals were there? It was impossible to break through. Although the demons were ferocious, the difference in strength was not something that could be made up for with aura alone. After 3 consecutive attacks, he was still unable to break through the defensive line of the immortals. Not to mention seeing Su Yun, who was still fighting with the original ancestor. If this goes on, forget about saving Su Yun. I'm afraid these devil cultivators will even lose their lives. Daoshi, Great Emperor, opened his eyes and murmured as he looked at the chaotic scene. Retreat. At this moment, a great fiend suddenly shouted. Retreat? Daoshi, Great Emperor, was stunned. The demonic chi cultivators had already started to retreat. A portion of them stayed at the back while the rest started to run towards the back. Previously, they were so aggressive, but now they retreated so quickly. Did the devil dwellers not think before doing things? Great Emperor Dao sure gritted his teeth. At this moment, the restriction left behind by the ancestral progenitor in his body had been shattered, and his cultivation had recovered. He immediately retreated with the devil. Don't let them go. Chase after him. The immortals roared, and the great immortals chased after them. Now that the demon saint had completely disappeared, the unwritten rules between the immortals and demons no longer existed. There were not many great demons, but all of them had appeared. How could they not kill them all to prevent future troubles? However, as he ran, Great Emperor Daoshi suddenly realized that the speed of the devil cultivator in front of him had actually slowed down. The devil cultivator did not seem to plan to escape. Instead, they gathered together and turned around, once again assuming a stance to fight against the enemy. In an instant, Great Emperor Daoshi was enlightened. A trap? A plan to lure the enemy? These immortals came from various sections. Today, they came here for the benefits. Now that the benefits were right in front of them, many of the cunning people who were usually good at scheming were muddled. Of course, not everyone was fooled. Some of them had already sensed that something was wrong and signaled for everyone to stop. However, many of them continued to charge forward with their heads lowered, completely ignoring the advice. Very quickly, the immortals caught up to the devil cultivator. The devil cultivator gathered together and raised their weapons at them, as though they did not plan to continue escaping. This scene caused the immortals' hearts to palpitate, and they felt that something was wrong. At this moment, people finally noticed something strange. Around these immortals, four pitch-black figures appeared. These figures exuded demonic chi and were obviously devil cultivators. Each of them wore pitch-black cloaks, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Only pairs of blood-red eyes could be seen under the dark cloaks. Judging from their aura, these four were all great devils. However, at this moment, each of them held a pitch-black devil sword in their hands. Demonic chi soared into the sky, causing the sky and earth to dim. This is the spiritual pedestal elder swept his gaze around, and his expression instantly changed. Not good. It's the celestial trapping sword. We've been ambushed. Quick, charge out. Happy Drunk shouted, and without caring about the others, he took the lead and rushed out. The terrifying sword intent wreaked havoc in all directions. The power that suppressed people's hearts had already been released, and people became inexplicably terrified. This was the concept that came from the terrifying sword array, and even the apotheosis elites could not guard their minds. However, these four great devils had already activated the swords in their hands. These devil swords spewed out a large amount of demonic chi, which turned into chains and formed a square, enveloping all the immortals within. Happy Drunk was directly hit by the demonic chi barrier and was bounced back. Even though he was in the apotheosis tier, he could not break this wall. The immortal trapping sword is an ancient devil sword. It was forged by the demon ancestor. It is the strongest devil weapon of the devil realm. However, during the great war between the immortals and devils, the immortal trapping sword was already destroyed when it trapped the peak ancestor elite, Moonless. Why does it still exist now? This is impossible. Wenren Yi Jian's lips trembled. The immortal trapping sword was so powerful that it was rumored to be able to trap even those of the ancestor level. If not for someone helping Moonless, even Moonless would not have been able to break the imprisonment of the immortal trapping sword. Although there are many people here, no one was an ancestor. If these immortal trapping swords were real, they would probably be trapped here by the devil cultivators for the rest of their lives. Everyone, don't panic. Everyone, listen. Attack the restriction with me. At this moment, Di Huanyu shouted loudly. This should be the immortal trapping sword. But I guess they have reforged this sword, so its power is definitely not as good as before. When those great demons used the immortal trapping sword, I felt their demonic power drain very quickly. I'm afraid they need a lot of demonic power to support the immortal trapping sword. Everyone, attack together and deplete the restriction of the immortal trapping sword. As long as the immortal trapping sword is depleted, we can get out. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard Di Huanyu's words. They roared angrily and launched attacks on the demonic chi barrier around them. The entire immortal trapping sword was colorful, and ferocious explosions rang out incessantly. Many people were accidentally injured and killed. However, in order to survive, no one stopped. Terrifying spells were released continuously in this small restriction. Support the immortal trapping sword. Don't let them break through the restriction. Wait for me to activate the immortal extermination array and kill them all. A great devil shouted and rushed out of the crowd. At the same time, another 3 great devils rushed out. Each of them held a pitch-black banner in their hands and landed around the immortal trapping sword formation of Kuan. They activated the devil banners and chanted a large number of incantations that were difficult to pronounce. A large number of devil cultivators also began to release their power, pouring it into the bodies of the 4 great demons who were activating the immortal trapping sword formation, preventing the immortals from breaking through the sword formation. The black and white powers continued to collide inside and outside the sword formation, the scene alternating between real and fake. It was extremely magical. The people from the Dao domain also dared to come over, but the Dao Shi Great Emperor did not participate. This formation required devil power, so they only needed to watch from the side. However, the turmoil here did not only attract these few immortal sects. More and more experts from the immortal world were already rushing over. Sword Ancestor led a group of elites from the encampment and rushed over. Seeing the formation of the Great Array, he knew that the great demons had succeeded, and now everything depended on Su Yun himself. Dong! Just then, a wave of destructive energy exploded out from the immortal devil graveyard. Seeing that, the Dao Shi Great Emperor immediately brought his men and rushed forward. Since he had chosen to join Su Yun, there was no other choice. If the devil cultivator was defeated, the blade domain would be doomed. So instead of that, he might as well help the devil cultivator now and prepare a way out for himself. The people of the blade domain immediately rushed to the front of the formation and set up a defense, blocking the incoming waves of chi for the devil cultivator. In the immortal devil graveyard, the origin ancestor was still fighting with Su Yun. Both sides were using all their strength, fighting to the death. The terrifying ancestral power shook the entire immortal world. The immortal world seemed to be in an earthquake, shaking nonstop, and the power of destruction filled the entire realm. Dong! The void was shattered, and a figure distorted in the void, then returned to its original state. It was Su Yun. The power of the original ancestor tried to tear his body apart, but the power of the small world in his body healed his body that was about to be torn apart. Su Yun felt that the strength in his entire body was being consumed rapidly. His ancestral power was simply too thin. Even if the original ancestor was injured, it would not be easy to defeat him. Now that things had come to this, there was no way out. He took a deep breath, raised the heaven-exterminating sword, and pierced it into his body. The sword intent of the heaven-exterminating sword could be injected into the small world, increasing the speed of the small world's development. Of course, this had to be done with his own blood as a guide. This was a technique similar to burning devil blood, and existed in the memories of the devil saint. However, once this technique was used, it would cause harm to the small world, and after using it, the person would always be in extreme pain of his soul distorting, and those with weak willpower would directly lose consciousness. But at the moment, Su Yun's demonic nature had erupted, his killing intent was firm. The heaven-exterminating sword pierced into him, but did not cause him much pain. The small world seemed to have been injected with a stimulant. It crazily developed and quickly formed a civilization. The power of civilization started to surge into Su Yun's limbs and spirit, causing his strength to increase crazily, and the heaven-exterminating sword seemed to have been stimulated. It was trembling so much that the sword image could not be seen clearly, as though it could collapse at any time. The original ancestor's face was ugly. He knew that this was another madman, but he had no other way out. He could only brace himself and charge forward. Chapter 1481. Origin Transformation Immortal Power. The ancestor bellowed, lightning runes crawling all over his body. The power of creation directly transformed into the power of lightning. He smashed his palm towards Su Yun. In an instant, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and Su Yun was immediately enveloped by endless lightning. Break! Su Yun bellowed. The heaven-exterminating sword smashed out. The sword body trembled. The sword chi leaked. The thousands of divine lightning actually turned into annihilation. Thunder and lightning, divine sword. The ancestor bellowed once again, grabbing the air with one hand. A terrifying divine sword completely formed from lightning appeared in his hand. Lightning tore through the void. The sound of thunder was like the roar of an ancient god. It was extremely terrifying. Dong! The heaven-exterminating sword and the thunder and lightning sword collided. The sound of the explosion seemed to be able to shatter a person's body. Su Yun was completely corroded by the lightning, but he did not feel the slightest bit of pain. He clenched his teeth, staring at the heaven-exterminating sword crazily pressing down. After the small world was stimulated, his cultivation was forcefully raised to the early stage of ancestor. He was already able to fight against the ancestor head. On. Shackles. The ancestor changed his ability again. The thunder and lightning divine sword suddenly disintegrated itself, turning into a lightning snake, crawling along the heaven-exterminating sword, enveloping Su Yun's entire body. You're finished. The ancestor sneered and clenched his hand. Origin energy explosion. Hua! The thunder and lightning shackles that wrapped around Su Yun suddenly turned golden, and then returned to the power of creation. They stuck to Su Yun's flesh and started to twist and spin crazily, as though they wanted to tear him into pieces. The surrounding space continued to explode, injecting destructive power into the power of creation. Su Yun clenched his teeth, his eyes bloodshot. He actually forcefully endured the terrifying destructive power and rushed towards the ancestor. In such a critical moment of life and death, he could no longer care about how much he had lost. Destroy. The divine sword fell. The huge sword pressure caused the ancestor to fall down. The spell was interrupted, and the ancestor spat out a mouthful of blood. Madman. He was a complete madman. Can't he feel pain? Doesn't he know what death is? Fear surged in the ancestor's heart. Seeing Su Yun, he immediately thought of a person, and that was the demon saint who had disappeared. During the battle of the immortals and demons, the demon saint took the lead and fought against 100 great immortals without being at a disadvantage. What he relied on was his terrifying demonic nature. He was not afraid of death and would not rest until he was dead. In that battle, only one of the 100 great immortals escaped, and that was the origin ancestor. Since then, he had always been extremely afraid of the demon saint. Therefore, after the demon saint was framed and fell into a deep sleep, he still guarded the corpse. He was worried that the demon saint would come back to life and take revenge on him. The revenge of the demons was extremely terrifying. This was because they would not consider the consequences. Even if it meant their own destruction, they would still achieve their goals. This was the reason why the demonic cultivators could not be destroyed even after experiencing so many hardships. As long as they still had a breath left, they would rise again. Limitless sword arts. Su Yun, who was covered in wounds, attacked again. The ancestor's power activated the limitless sword arts, causing the entire celestial world to freeze. Following that, all the sword chi in the celestial world started to boil. Countless swords broke through the clouds, as though they were being pulled by something, crazily rushing towards the graveyard of immortals and demons, condensing terrifying swords in the air, together with the flying swords. The number was incalculable, the sword intent. had already covered the entire world, the sharp sword might cause the people of the entire celestial world to tremble. In the distance, Sword Ancestor raised his head to look at the sky. A large number of flying swords rushed towards the graveyard of immortals and demons. These swords seemed to have been summoned by someone. Suyin? He has already comprehended a new sword style? Sword Ancestor muttered. The ancestor's face was ashen. This attack had consumed an unknown amount of Su Yun's ancestor's power. But he understood that Su Yun wanted to fight with him. If he were to receive this attack, he would be severely injured. And if he could not, he would definitely die. Don't look down on me. The ancestor had nowhere else to go. He clenched his teeth and struck his chest with his palm, shaking the small world in his body and extracting all the energy from the small world. In that moment, the small world in the ancestor's body dried up, but the ancestral power that was extracted was extremely terrifying and could even contend against Su Yun's sword power. The Chi sword and the real sword had already arrived. The sky was filled with sword images. Su Yun stood in the middle of the billions of divine swords. Like the king of swords, his divine might unparalleled. Kill! Su Yun stared at the ancestor, and with a congealing sound, in that moment, the swords that filled the sky turned into a sword dragon, crashing towards the ancestor. Rumble, 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 the terrifying sword intent directly tore apart the sky, causing space to completely distort. The destructive power spread out crazily. It was extremely powerful. The ancestor struggled to hold on. At the moment, his ancestor's power was being consumed crazily, but he believed that Su Yun was not much better off. Now, it all depended on who could last until the end. At the immortal trapping sword formation, the terrifying sword power came from the graveyard of immortals and demons, and the people here were also affected. The sword ancestor brought his men and rushed over to help the people of the blade domain resist the wave of Qi. But the terrifying sword Qi that followed instantly tore apart their protective barrier and sent everyone flying. No! The battle between the ancestors is too terrifying. We can't take it at all. This place is too close to the place where they are fighting. We have to retreat immediately. The sword ancestor shouted loudly. They cannot hold on any longer. Once the wave of Qi approached the immortal trapping sword formation and affected the great demons, the sword formation would not be able to be maintained. In that moment of danger, the four great demons that were using the immortal slaying formation all kept their banners and rushed to the front of the sword ancestor and the rest, releasing the power of creation to resist the wave of Qi. These people will be trapped for now. The immortal trapping sword formation is not as easy to break as them. We will first block the wave of Qi and think of a way to support the demon lord. If we can help the demon lord kill the ancestor, none of these immortals will be able to escape. A great demon at the peak of the god realm shouted. Hearing this, everyone nodded. If they did not defend against such a terrifying wave of Qi, they would probably be injured before they could even finish off the people in the immortal trapping sword formation. It was just that the battle over there was so intense that even the peak of the god realm would not be able to pass. How could they support them? A battle of this level was no longer related to the existence of the god realm. In the sky, swords were still flying over from afar, rushing towards the immortal devil graveyard. Very quickly, the people here also discovered that the swords on their bodies were restless, uncontrollable, and flew out in unison, shooting towards the immortal devil graveyard. Waves of rumbling sounds came from that side, as well as the sound of air exploding, crackling, and rattling, never stopping. Everyone looked in the direction of the immortal devil graveyard, only to discover that the scenery there had already become illusory. This was a battle between an injured ancestor and a pseudo-ancestor. If two ancestors in excellent condition were to fight, the scope of the battle would probably not be limited to this. The heaven and earth were filled with sword intent, like a sea of swords. The ancestor endured the baptism of the divine sword for the time it took for an incense stick to burn before it ended. At this moment, his entire body was naked. All the magic treasure on his body had been cut into pieces, and his skin was covered with countless sword scars. It was extremely terrifying. Su Yun's face was also extremely pale. He was panting heavily. He held onto the heaven-exterminating sword tightly. His eyes were still blood-red. Kid, it's not easy for us to cultivate to this level. There's no need for us to fight to the death. Why don't we just forget about it and go our separate ways? With our strength, won't we be able to live a carefree life in the myriad worlds? The ancestor's face distorted. He endured the pain and shouted at Su Yun. If I don't kill you, how can I be free? Su Yun said coldly. The ancestor said solemnly, Brat, you have already obtained the inheritance of the demon saint. Your future is limitless. If you fight with me today, it is not certain who will win and who will lose. If you lose your life here, wouldn't that be too much of pity? Let's just forget it. Let's all take a step back. Let's stop here. What do you think? You are injured now, and I still have the strength to fight you. If I let you go, once you recover and come looking for me again, I will not be your match. So today you must die. Su Yun bellowed. He raised his sword and rushed forward. Bastard, you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. The ancestor was completely enraged. The ancestor's dignity had been completely trampled on by this person today. If he did not kill this person, he would definitely have a heart demon, and his cultivation would not be able to advance in the future. Reverse space twist. The ancestor roared. The ancestor's power transformed into the power of time and space. The space in front of Su Yun immediately changed. Su Yun took a step forward, but inexplicably appeared behind the ancestor. The ancestor took advantage of the situation and threw a punch. However, Su Yun did not dodge and slashed at the ancestor. Dong! Puchi! The ancestor's shoulder was hit by a sword, while Su Yun's chest was punched. Su Yun took another step forward, but this time he realized that his footsteps were clearly very fast, but he felt as if he was walking on the spot. Time and space power? He changed the space around me? Su Yun suddenly understood. The ancestor sneered. His entire body was enveloped by the power of time and space. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Su Yun. Su Yun's eyes and hands were quick. The sharp sword slashed forward, but the ancestor's footsteps slightly shifted, and he immediately disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already 10,000 miles away. The power of time and space allowed him to do as he pleased. The ancestor's methods were ever-changing. The power of the 5 elements, light, darkness, time and space were all grasped by them, and even the art of fate could be grasped in their hands. The battle had only begun. Su Yun took a deep breath, activated the ancestor's power in his body, and released a sword strike. Dark Demon God Void. Crash! The sword released a ball of black chi, immediately dyeing the sky black. The entire immortal world immediately lost all its luster. Even the artifacts that glowed with light were no longer bright, and everyone fell into endless darkness. With such a powerful immortal battle, the entire immortal world had already become their battlefield. The immortals were like creatures of the apocalypse, and they did not know if they would survive in the next second. The ancestor was slightly startled, only to see a gigantic and terrifying devil eye appear in the sky. At this moment, the devil I was staring straight at him. Eternal calamity, purgatory. In the darkness, a grand voice sounded out. The devil eye suddenly widened, as if it wanted to absorb the ancestor's soul into its eyes. Chapter 1482. The appearance of the demon I caused the ancestor to tremble in fear. Su Yun was fighting with his soul. This was the power of the soul. The demon I shone on his body and forcefully pulled out his soul. The ancestor immediately guarded his mind and imprisoned his own soul. The two of them were like a tug-of-war. The ancestor let out a painful roar. His soul was being torn apart. This feeling crazily bombarded his will, but if he loosened even a little, his soul would definitely be taken away by Su Yun and sealed into the demon eye. Although Su Yun's cultivation was still far from the ancestor realm, the power of his soul was stronger than that of the ancestor realm. His soul had fused with the demon saint's soul power and was extremely majestic. Even the ancestor realm could not compete with him, and this was Su Yun's only advantage. The ancestor's face was sinister, his entire body was trembling, his soul was being pulled out bit by bit, and he was helpless. He wanted to attack Su Yun, but in this pitch-black world, he was unable to lock onto Su Yun's position. No, the ancestor roared, his soul was being pulled out bit by bit. He could not contend against Su Yun's soul power. When the demon saint was still alive, his soul power was countless times stronger than the ancestor realm, and amongst the same level, the ancestor of the demon saint was the strongest. This was also the reason why the ancestor was afraid of the demon saint, especially his soul, which was unbelievably strong. The will of the devil cultivator was usually extremely firm. Their spirit and soul were known to be the strongest in the myriad realms. Because the devil cultivator had always lived in suffering, the devil arts they cultivated, the devil nature they cultivated, all grew up in suffering. And ever since the devil cultivator was born, they had always been suppressed by the immortal realm, and in these past few years, no devil had ever been at ease. Amongst the devil cultivator, the weakest had already died, and the weaker ones had flowed into the devil realm, while the strongest ones had already stepped into the immortal realm. The ancestor could not resist. He could only watch as his soul was slowly pulled out. He was extremely terrified. Those who were able to cultivate to the ancestor realm, which one of them had not suffered and experienced all sorts of hardships. If he died like this, it would be such a pity. No matter who it was, at this moment, they would put down their dignity and do everything they could to survive. Demon Lord, Su Yun, let me go. Let me go. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to do anything for you. Please let me go. The ancestor roared, but his voice was trembling. Let you go? Was that even possible? When you said you were going to die, did you ever think of letting him go? In the darkness, Su Yun's cold voice came out. What will it take for you to let me go? Ancestor progenitor shouted in a trembling voice. Impossible. Despair. As the shout fell, the demonic eye released rays of red light. Like a giant hand reaching out, it suddenly lifted the origin ancestor's soul and pulled it out, flying towards the demonic eye. No! The primogenitor's soul let out a heart-wrenching scream. The primogenitor's soul was also aggressive. He kept bombarding the demon eye. His soul power was like a huge wave, hitting the demon eye again and again. However, the demon eye did not react. It only closed when the primogenitor's soul fell into it. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the world became clear again, and the immortal world was freed from the darkness. Su Yun closed his eyes tightly and stood in the sky. After a long while, he slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, his eyes were red, and there seemed to be a shadow in his pupils. It was the ancestor's soul. His eyes acted as his stomach and began to digest the power of the ancestor's soul. It was as if purgatory had sealed him up. Primogenitor-level existences no longer had facial features, limbs, or anything else. Their eyes could be used as noses, and their noses could be used as eyes. A single strand of hair could turn into a limb, and both hands and feet could turn into hair. Primogenitor-level existences had truly cultivated themselves into a single entity, an entity that could not die unless it was completely destroyed. The battle of the ancestors had finally ended, and the turbulent, immortal world had calmed down. All that was left was the destructive power that was difficult to disperse in the air. It was as if people had experienced a storm. Only after calming down did they understand how good it was to live. Su Yun looked at the ancestor's body. Without a soul, the body was just an empty shell. He grabbed the body and threw it into the space bag. How precious was the body of the ancestor! Furthermore, it was the body of his enemy. He did not plan to destroy it just like that. He would refine it well and make good use of it. The battle here had ended, but the devil cultivator's side was not over yet. Because they had to resist the waves of chi, the great demons were unable to activate the immortal extermination formation to destroy the trapped immortals. There were too few devil cultivator, and towards the end, there were already signs of them not being able to hold on. No, the devil chi is not enough. If this goes on, the immortal trapping sword formation will be broken. Sword Ancestor looked around and said in a deep voice, "If there's no way to get rid of these people, We can only choose to retreat. Retreat? We can leave, but we must bring Lord Devil's Saint and the demon monarch away. We can't leave them here. The great demon at the peak of the god realm shouted in a low voice. The destructive aura is much weaker, and there is no movement from that side. Maybe the battle over there has already ended. At this moment, the Dao Shi Great Emperor shouted. As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. Was the battle of the ancestors over? Then who won? Everyone's hearts started to beat wildly. Their fates were actually linked to the battle of the ancestors. If Su Yun won, the devil cultivator would be able to survive. After all, the original ancestor was dead. But if Su Yun died and the original ancestor lived, then the situation would be terrible. The devil cultivator did not have an ancestor to fight against the original ancestor, so they would definitely be destroyed by the original ancestor. No one here would be able to escape. Everyone looked into the distance in fear, but they ignored the immortals inside the immortal trapping sword formation. They attacked crazily one after another, and the great demons supporting the immortal trapping sword formation felt more and more powerless. Quick! They can't hold on any longer. Everyone, put in more effort and break this immortal trapping sword formation. Haha, we're coming out. The immortals laughed. The bombardment became more and more ferocious. Seeing that, the great demons had no choice but to rush over to support the immortal trapping sword formation again. You guys hold on here for now. I'll go to the immortal devil graveyard to take a look. Sword Ancestor said to these people in a deep voice. You can't go. It's better if you wait here. The great demon shouted. We don't have much time left. There are a lot of immortals rushing over here. If we stay here for too long, I'm afraid none of us will be able to leave. You guys think of a way to use the immortal slaying sword formation and get rid of these people. Otherwise, they will definitely cause trouble for us again in the future. I will think of a way to bring Su Yun back. After the Sword Ancestor finished speaking, he was about to turn around, but at this moment, a roar came from the horizon. You do not have much time left, but none of you can leave. As soon as he finished speaking, countless figures dashed towards him. Everyone looked over and saw a large number of immortals rushing over. There were many great immortals among them. Since the great demon had appeared, the great immortal would definitely not be able to hold it in. Furthermore, the people from the immortal sects had already sent out a distress signal. It was not surprising that these immortals would rush over. This is bad. What should we do? Those people panicked. Retreat immediately. Quick! Sword Ancestor shouted. It was impossible for these devil cultivator to control the immortal trapping sword formation while fighting against such a large number of immortals. No, the demon lord and the demon saint have yet to be rescued. We cannot leave just like that. The great demons shouted out in indignation. But if you don't leave, no one will be able to leave. If Su Yun wins, they will not be able to keep Su Yun. If Su Yun loses, even if you go, it will be useless. As long as there is life, there is hope. Go, hurry up and leave. Sword Ancestor shouted loudly. In this situation, it would be too late if they did not leave now. The great demons hesitated, but in the end, they made a decision, and the sound of retreat rang out continuously. But how could these immortals let them leave just like that? A few great immortals rushed over crazily, directly attacking the 4 great demons who were activating the immortal trapping sword formation, destroying the immortal trapping sword formation. The sword formation was broken, and the people inside flew out. The immortals were like a tide, rushing over. Adding the great immortals that arrived later, the number of great immortals was actually more than 20, and the experts of the Origin Void Realm and Peak Spirit God were countless. Slay the demons. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all. A furious roar rang out. Wenren E. Jian, Happy Drunk, Divine Pedestal Ancestor, Di Huan Yu, and many other great immortals directly pounced towards the Devil Cultivator. They were trapped by the immortal trapping sword formation and felt extremely aggrieved. Now that a large army had arrived, if they did not take revenge, how could they have any face? These great demons are mine. No one is allowed to snatch them. I will personally kill them and devour their bodies and souls. Divine pedestal ancestor shouted ferociously. Wenren Yi continued to rush towards Great Emperor Dao Shi. At this moment, his hatred for Great Emperor Dao Shi was not small. The Devil Cultivator Army, the encampment, and the people of the Blade region were all retreating, but very quickly, the tide-like immortals surrounded them. A powerful immortal used space-time methods to send a group of powerful immortal troops to the back of the Devil Cultivator Army, blocking their path. The Devil Cultivator had no way out. The difference in strength between the two sides was at least 1 to 5. The number of immortals was at least 5 times that of the Devil Cultivator, and they were not even considered experts. The great demons gathered together, and the people of the encampment surrounded the periphery, standing together with the people of the Blade region. Looking at the densely packed, innumerable immortals, many people's eyes were filled with fear. Looks like we're going to die here today. Sword Grandmaster took a deep breath and said indifferently, everyone will die one day. Death is not scary. It depends on how they die. Even if I die today, I will drag a few people with me. The great demon at the peak of the Ascension deity tier said in a low voice, his voice cold, causing the surrounding immortals to retreat involuntarily. Stubborn, divine pedestal ancestor snorted and directly attacked. The great demon immediately counterattacked, but at the same time, another 7 Ascension deity tier peak stage immortals attacked at the same time. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands, and the great demon's chest was immediately penetrated, falling into serious injury. Everyone, this person is mine. You guys divide the rest. Divine pedestal ancestor pointed at the injured great demon and said loudly. Chapter 1483. The spirit pedestal grand elder picked one person, and the others naturally wouldn't just stand there. Then this person is mine. D1, pointed at another apotheosis tier existence. These 4 demons with the trap immortal sword are also at the peak of the apotheosis tier, so let's divide them among us. Happy Drunk said with a smile to Wenren Yi and the leader of the Divine Sea sect, God-Shocking Sea, who came to help. Sure, the middle-aged God-Shocking Sea nodded. Those at the peak of the apotheosis tier were only 1 step away from the ancestor level. Every hair on such people was a treasure, and if they could absorb it or refine it into pills, it would be of great help to them in breaking through to the ancestor level. This was also why God-Shocking Sea and the others came to help Wenren Yi and the others. Although these sects didn't have much contact in the past, it was because of the appearance of a great demon here that they could slaughter at will. The demons here were not only enemies, but also resources to them. The leaders of the various sects had already determined the resources they wanted, and the people surrounded these people tightly. Everything was ready. God-Shocking Sea waved his hand and spat out a word coldly. Kill! In an instant, the immortals rushed towards the demons like hungry wolves seeing a flock of sheep. However, were these really sheep? Obviously not. A great demon didn't fear death and used spatial divine arts to sweep up 10,000 immortals and instantly disappeared. When it appeared again, it was already 10,000 miles above the sky. With a bang, an explosion sounded and a terrifying spatial tremor descended from the sky. The great demon directly self-destructed, wiping out 10,000 experts. Among these 10,000 immortals, there were 2 apotheosis tier elites. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. These were all demons, and when forced into a desperate situation, they would do anything. Don't be afraid. I promise they won't succeed again. At this time, God-Shocking Sea suddenly shouted in a low voice, calming the hearts of the people. A great demon planned to imitate the great demon before, using spatial magic to take away a group of immortals and self-destruct, so as not to hurt his own people. But just as he was about to move, he was hit by a spell, and he actually exploded on the spot. Countless demons and immortals were affected and died tragically. At a glance, it was done by God-Shocking Sea. This is your way of preventing them from succeeding? Wenren Yi rushed over and shouted angrily. His men were chasing after Great Emperor Dao Shi, and he had set his sights on Great Emperor Dao Shi. However, He didn't expect Soul Shock Ocean's move to kill most of the elites of his half-sky sword faction. Although he lost some people, didn't the demon dwellers lose even more? Not to mention, this way, the demon dwellers will have some misgivings and won't dare to use this trick again. Isn't this better for us? Startling God Ocean said indifferently. He didn't seem to care about Wonrin Ejian's anger. Although Wonrin Ejian was furious, he could not do anything to God Shocker Ocean. God Shocker Ocean faction was far stronger than Heavenly Sword faction. They had more than one Ascended God expert. That was the reason why God Shocker Ocean could be so arrogant. Wonrin Ejian waved his hand and called his people back. He didn't plan to charge and break through the enemy lines anymore. The immortals had already surrounded the devils, so the people of Dao Domain couldn't escape. He wasn't in a hurry to kill Great Emperor Dao, sure. The immortals attacked crazily, but the demon dwellers couldn't do anything. The Sword Ancestor used the limitless sword arts and forced the immortals to retreat. We must think of a way to break out of the encirclement. Otherwise, we will all die here. The Sword Ancestor shouted at the peak of Ascendant God Realm Great Demon. The Great Demon's eyes were bloodshot. Demonic energy erupted from his body. He looked at the immortals angrily and said with a ferocious expression, "I will open a path for you to break out of the encirclement. Everyone, follow me." After saying that, the Great Demon raised the power of creation and rushed out. The injury on his chest had not healed yet, but his action already represented his intention. He planned to use his life to help these people break out of the encirclement. Although everyone couldn't bear to do it, in this critical situation, no one had a choice. "Everyone, follow him," the Sword Ancestor shouted. The encirclement, the demon dwellers, and the people of Dao Domain immediately followed behind the Great Demon and rushed out. The Great Demon condensed a terrifying demonic saber with demonic energy. The blood all over his body boiled as he slashed madly. Although the injury on his chest was serious, his aura increased crazily at this time, faintly showing signs of breaking through the peak of Ascendant God Realm and stepping into the Progenitor Realm. Burning demonic blood? The Shocking God Ocean snorted coldly. However, the demonic blood of this great demon wasn't as powerful as that of Sectmaster by Qion. Even if he burned it, he couldn't enter the Progenitor Realm. Otherwise, if these great demons of the true demon realm burned their demonic blood together, several progenitors would be enough to destroy the myriad worlds. This great demon charged forward without any regard for his own safety. Burning his demonic blood, his strength was astonishing. Even an existence of Ascendant God Realm would find it difficult to resist. Soon, he blasted a hole in the encirclement. All the demon dwellers began to break out of the encirclement. "You think you can escape?" The Shocking God Ocean leaped and rushed towards the great demon, the power of creation surging. Wonrin Jian, the Spirit Pedestal Grand Elder, and many other experts didn't dare to hesitate and flew over to stop the retreating demon dwellers. The great demon hurriedly turned around and slammed his palm towards the Shocking God Ocean. However, although the Shocking God Ocean rushed over, he didn't intend to fight him head-on. He opened his mouth and spat out a monstrous amount of seawater that turned into a huge wave that slammed towards the demon dwellers. The seawater didn't have any destructive power, but it couldn't be dispelled. When it fell into the demon dwellers, it immediately condensed into ice. A large number of demon dwellers were frozen, and even the great demons were affected, their bodies covered in frost. Demonic flame, the great demon gritted his teeth and roared. The demonic energy all over his body turned into flames and blew towards the great demon. The frost was immediately melted. However, just as he saved these people, the Shocking God Ocean moved. He slammed his palm towards the great demon with astonishing speed. An ice road appeared in the void, and he landed on the ice road, appearing in front of the great demon as if he had teleported. Pung! The great demon was blasted away, and demonic blood spewed from his mouth. An existence at the peak of the invincible realm who had ignited his demonic blood was undoubtedly powerful. He could be said to be invincible below the primogenitor realm. However, The shocking god Ocean was better at scheming. Although the great demon was strong, he had a fatal weakness, and that was the demon dwellers behind him. The shocking god Ocean didn't care about the lives of others. He didn't even care about the lives of those from the shocking god Ocean faction. But this great demon obviously couldn't. So, as long as he used these demon dwellers well, it would be easy for him to deal with this great demon. Bastard. Seeing this, another great demon immediately rushed out and pounced towards the shocking god Ocean. However, just as he moved, someone jumped out from the side. It was Happy Drunk. "You're mine." Happy Drunk sneered and rushed towards that person. The great demons were all targeted. They didn't have any advantage in numbers, and everyone was fighting one against many. "It's over." The shocking god Ocean laughed coldly and instantly landed next to the great demon. The great demon used all the power of creation to wrap around the shocking god Ocean, intending to use brute strength to crush him. However, the shocking god Ocean wasn't afraid at all. His body suddenly turned into liquid and disappeared. Very quickly, he condensed and appeared behind the great demon. "Poochie!" The great demon shuddered. He lowered his head and saw that his heart had been pulled out by a hand. The organ that is about to form a small world is so beautiful. Look, on your heart, there are already mountains and rivers. Sadly, you won't be able to see your small world. The shocking god Ocean held the heart and smiled strangely. Then, he swallowed the great demon's heart in front of everyone. Wenren Yijian, Di Huan Yu, and the others saw this and were all shocked. They silently cursed at the crazy, shocking god Ocean. The great demon's heart was so powerful. Could he control this energy after eating it? But just then, the great demon suddenly turned around and hugged the shocking god Ocean. Huh? The shocking god Ocean was startled. Before he could react, his body suddenly disappeared. The great demon teleported him 10,000 miles into the sky. "Even if I die, I want you to accompany me." The great demon roared and his body exploded. The terrifying wind of destruction spread out and shook the entire celestial world. The shocking god Ocean didn't think that the great demon's heart was destroyed and the meridian of creation was destroyed. Even he couldn't react in time. Even though the shocking god Ocean was strong, he couldn't withstand such an explosion. He fell from the sky. Countless demons looked at the falling shocking god Ocean with tears of blood in their eyes. "If we can't get out, then let's all die here." At this time, a devil cultivator suddenly shouted. He turned around and recklessly rushed towards the place where the immortals gathered. He blew up his body, and his soul turned into a mushroom cloud. The immortals were all stunned. The other demon dwellers followed suit. They had nowhere else to go, and they weren't afraid of death. Since they were going to die, they were willing to use the most heroic method to end their lives. The people of the sects panicked. They all retreated and didn't dare to go forward. The demon dwellers were too crazy. If they were dying, they would definitely blow themselves up. Even if they killed one demon dweller, the immortals would suffer great losses. The people from the various immortal sects all wanted to preserve their own strength in order to obtain more benefits. Judging from the current situation, the more powerful the person was, the more they would be able to eat. If they were exhausted by the demon dwellers, they would not have the right to split the benefits. The immortals started to relax, while the demon dwellers were getting stronger. "What are you waiting for?" The shocking god Ocean saw this and coldly said, "Afraid? They are just a bunch of ants. Just kill them all. Now, I will use a magic treasure to completely seal their souls and prevent their souls from triggering their bodies to self-destruct. Just kill them for me." "Why didn't you use it earlier?" Wenren Yijian angrily asked. "Then may I ask, Lord Wenren, have you taken out your secret treasure?" The shocking god Ocean coldly said. Wenren Yijian frowned and didn't say anything. The shocking god Ocean took out a jade bowl with water in it. He mumbled something and threw the bowl into the sky. The bowl became huge and flipped over. The water in the bowl flowed down and drenched the demon dwellers. In an instant, everyone who was drenched in water found that their souls had been completely sealed and their connection with their bodies had dropped to the lowest level. Their senses, spells, and auras had all become extremely slow. Even their movements had slowed down. Good treasure. Di Huanyu laughed and rushed in with his people. A demon dweller saw this and immediately blew himself up. But he was too slow. Before he could explode, he was killed. Chapter 1484. After going through a treasure like the spirit-shocking sea, the devil cultivator were like frosted eggplants, wilting. The power of this treasure was unimaginable, but when the bowl of water was poured out, it shattered on its own. Obviously, this treasure could only be used once. Although the devil cultivator also had treasures, they were clearly not as many as the immortals. The situation was getting more and more unfavorable. After suffering from the treasure of the spirit-shocking sea, the scene was almost a one-sided massacre. The sword ancestor was also besieged. The limitless sword arts was something that many immortals coveted. Since the sword ancestor appeared here, how could he be ignored? Very quickly, he was attacked by more than 10 experts. He kept retreating, and his body was quickly injured. The sword ancestor was only in the void returning realm, so it was impossible for him to fight against so many experts. There were even early-stage God-sealing realm existences participating in the encirclement. If not for the chaos of the scene, the God-sealing realm experts would have died. Is it really going to end here? The sword ancestor sighed deeply. He did all this just to preserve the evil sword. Although Su Yin was only a junior, he could uphold his own Tao. Even though the evil sword was powerful, and he was extremely familiar with the sword spirit, he still did not rely on the evil sword's power, nor would he think of using the evil sword to do whatever he wanted. He understood the danger of the evil sword, and the sword ancestor believed that the evil sword was the best choice in his hands. But now, if these people were to destroy the devil cultivator and the power of the encampment, Su Yun would not be able to protect the evil sword. At that time, the myriad realms would perish. Watching the devil cultivator fall one by one, the sword ancestor's eyes were filled with exhaustion. Was it really going to end here? Boom! At this moment, the void suddenly shook, and a terrifying destructive aura swept towards the graveyard of immortals and demons again. The immortals were shocked. They all looked into the distance, only to see a black light rushing towards them. Wherever the black light passed, it was pitch black, as if a brush had dyed the world black. The turbulent aura of creation and divine power here was directly dispersed, leaving only a wave of power in the air. The power of the ancestor. The spirit-shocking sea and the others sensed this aura and were so shocked that their bodies trembled. Ancestor! It's the ancestor! The divine pedestal ancestor shouted, trembling. How can there be such a dense devil chi? Could it be that the war over there is impossible? It was impossible for the Lord Ancestor to lose. It was definitely because the Lord Ancestor had swallowed Su Yun that the devil chi in his body became so dense. That must be it. People said in horror. The existence of the primogenitor, even if it was just his aura, was enough to make people tremble, let alone resist him. Die! Right at this moment, the black figure that was charging over suddenly leaped up and slashed his sword towards the group of immortals. The terrifying sword split into a myriad of sword images that were peerlessly dazzling and unparalleled. As the sword descended, it destroyed the heavens and the earth. Wherever the sword passed, not even dust remained. Over 10,000 immortals died miserably under the sword. What? Wenren Yijian, Di Huanyu, Happy Drunk, and the others turned pale with fright. With that one slash, not even a hair was left of these immortals. They were completely annihilated. This was such a terrifying slash that even the void would be shattered by it. Progenitor. This was the primogenitor's power. It really was Su Yun. He had defeated the progenitor. They're coming. The divine pedestal ancestor shouted in panic. The shocking god Ocean's expression was extremely ugly. He stared coldly at Su Yun, and without another word, he turned and retreated. He could not contend against the power of the progenitor. With the shocking god Ocean fleeing, how could the others dare to continue fighting the demonic dwellers? One by one, they immediately turned and fled. You think you can escape? Kill! Su Yun, who was surrounded by devil chi, roared and chased after. There were no fancy moves, no terrifying techniques. He just raised his sword and slashed. But with every slash, it could affect the stars, draw down the power of heaven and earth, and slash through the void. Countless immortals died under the sword, and no one could stop it. The demonic dwellers were excited, and so were the people in the encampment, especially the great Emperor Dao Shi, who was trembling all over. Progenitor. It really was a progenitor. Wenren Jian, Di Huanyu, and the others were still trying to curry favor with the progenitor. Their goal was to obtain the benefits of the progenitor and receive his guidance, so that they could successfully step into the peak of the conferred God realm and step into the supreme realm. But now, Su Yun had become the progenitor, and the blade domain had surrendered to Su Yun. From now on, he would follow Su Yun. To be able to follow an ancestor, what a great opportunity, what a great favor. For the first time, the great Emperor Dao Shi realized that he had made such a wise choice. The demon monarch has returned. Everyone, follow the demon monarch and kill your way over. A demonic dweller raised his demonic blade and roared. Previously, they had been surrounded and attacked by these immortals. How miserable were they? Many of them had died, and now that Su Yun had arrived, how could they not seize the opportunity to vent their anger? The demonic dwellers were like a tide, following Su Yun to chase after the immortals. Along the way, the immortals were all engulfed by the sword images and corroded by the devil chi. They were like ants on a hot pan, fleeing in all directions, panicking and screaming in despair and fear. Demon monarch, this person killed my true devil realm's great demon, mad, blood devil lord. We cannot let him go. A demonic dweller pointed at the fleeing, god-shocking sea and shouted angrily. Su Yun's blood-red eyes turned cold, filled with killing intent. He stared at god-shocking sea and leaped up. His body was like an illusion, and in an instant, he appeared in front of god-shocking sea. It was extremely difficult to escape from the ancestor's eyes. God-shocking sea clenched his teeth and retreated dozens of meters. He said in a low voice, Lord Demon Monarch, Mad Blood Devil Lord is only at the peak of the God-sealing realm. Although he is very strong, he is still lacking compared to me. If I submit to you, can you not kill me? If the great Emperor Dao Shi had successfully surrendered to the demonic dweller, he would definitely be able to as well. Although the peak of the God-sealing realm was not an existence of the ancestor, he was only a step away from it. Furthermore, the strength of the God-shocking sea was astonishing. It was difficult to find a match for him below the ancestor. But Su Yun raised the heaven-extinguishing sword and shouted coldly, You are not worthy to be my man. You are not even worthy to be my lackey. As his voice fell, the heaven-extinguishing sword descended. God-shocking sea's face paled, and he immediately crushed a talisman that he had been holding in his hand. Crash! His body suddenly disappeared, and he had used a teleportation treasure to escape. There was a teleportation mark left in the air. You can run? Get over here! Su Yun bellowed. He raised his hand and grabbed at the air. His hand entered the air, and then suddenly pulled out, and the God-shocking sea that had just disappeared was directly grabbed back by him. What? God-shocking sea was extremely shocked. The ancestors' space-time methods were actually so exquisite. Slash! Su Yun slashed out with his sword, and God-shocking sea's body exploded like sand, splashing in all directions. However, his soul was not killed by Su Yun, but was held tightly by him. Slaughter my demonic dweller. If I kill you just like that, it will be too easy on you. Peak of the God-sealing realm, right? It will help me nurture another expert at the peak of the God-sealing realm. Su Yun threw God-shocking sea's soul to a great demon in the middle stage of the God-sealing realm and bellowed, Make good use of it. The great demon caught it, his eyes filled with surprise and joy. He hurriedly cupped his fists. Thank you, Demon Lord. The others all looked at him enviously. The soul of an expert at the peak of the God-sealing realm was simply a priceless treasure. Perhaps it could not even be described as a priceless treasure because in the entire immortal world, Only the ancestor could kill a person at the peak of the god-sealing realm, and only the ancestor could take out such a treasure. This kind of thing was extremely useful. The memories and insights inside were immeasurable. It was a huge wealth. However, everyone was only envious. The great demons at the peak of the god-sealing realm could not use it, and the early stage of the god-sealing realm could not use it. It could only be given to middle-stage existences, which was the most suitable. Continue to kill. Su Yun bellowed. He did not have the slightest intention of letting go, and rushed forward again. Since the immortals wanted him to die, then why should he show mercy? Su Yun would never show mercy to his enemies. Even if he had to offend the gods and Buddhas of the heavens, he would not hesitate. If he could even show mercy to his enemies, then he would not be far from death. The people immediately became excited. At this time, the hunter and the prey had already switched places. Whoever reserved your souls just now, go and kill them now. Don't let a single one of them go. After fighting with the original ancestor, he used the demon eye to devour the original ancestor's soul, but Su Yun did not immediately go to support the battle at the trapped immortal sword formation. It was not that he did not want to help, but that his current condition was not too good. The battle with the original ancestor had consumed almost all of his ancestral aura. The small world was completely exhausted, and even the power of creation in his body was not much. He needed a period of time to recover. Otherwise, even if he went over, he would not be able to turn the situation around. In such a short period of time, even the existence of the ancestor would not be able to recover immediately. But Su Yun had seen through the battle over there. Seeing the devil cultivator being slaughtered one by one, and even the sword ancestor was in danger, he was completely enraged. The devil blood in his body actually started to burn on its own, and surging energy surged out, nourishing the small world, causing him to be extremely surprised. Although the burning power of the devil blood was not as terrifying as burning the devil blood on its own, to the current Su Yun, it was like a life-saving straw. Although it was only a little, it was enough to force the immortals to retreat. In truth, he had used all of the ancestors' power to kill the shocking god Sea. What he wanted was tyrannical methods to intimidate the immortals and even the potential enemies, to let the people of the world know of his methods, and to make the immortals lose the will to fight against him. As long as the immortals lost the confidence to fight, even if Su Yun did not make a move, this battle would become a one-sided massacre. The chase lasted for a full 3 days and 3 nights before it ended. Not all of the immortals were killed, and a portion of them had already used magic treasure-S to retreat and escape back to their sections. However, Su Yun did not plan to let any of these sects go. It was just that he had to first return to the encampment to recover. Otherwise, he would not be able to handle the rest. This debt should be settled slowly. Chapter 1485. After returning to the encampment, Su Yun went into closed-door cultivation for a few days, while the great demons and the people in the encampment started to nervously set up their defenses. The Dao Shi, great emperor, temporarily returned to the Blade Domain, but he knew that since he had followed Su Yun, the Blade Domain would definitely not be peaceful. For safety's sake, he decided to move the Blade Domain to the encampment and take care of Su Yun. A few days later, Su Yun successfully came out of seclusion, but his chi was extremely unique. It did not seem like the chi of an existence from the god-sealing realm, nor did it seem like the chi of an ancestor. The current him was already at the pseudo-ancestor realm, stronger than the god-sealing realm, but he could not be considered a true ancestor. The demon saint had only given him an inheritance, but not a transfer of strength, and the original ancestor's soul had also increased his mental strength, allowing him to better absorb the wealth that the demon saint had given him. After the incident with the immortal devil graveyard, Su Yun would definitely become the target of public criticism. The war between the immortal world and the demon realm would also reach the final stage of the decisive battle, which had already risen to the level of a battle between a great immortal and a great demon. When they arrived at the meeting hall, it was already filled with people. Other than Qin Xianlong, Su Luluo, and the others, there were also many devil cultivator with terrifying auras. Su Yun looked at the devil cultivator, but did not feel that they were unfamiliar, and walked forward and bowed to the devil cultivator. Junior Su Yun greets all the seniors. Seeing that, all the great demons were flattered and anxiously helped Su Yun up. Lord Demon Lord, why are you doing this? A devil cultivator with a spirit condor on his shoulder asked. Seniors, this should not be the first time we've met. This junior has entered the ancient tomb before and received the help of all the seniors. In Su Yun's heart, all of you are my teachers, so this bow is naturally done. Su Yun laughed. When the great demons heard this, they felt relieved. The spirit condor devil cultivator laughed. Lord Demon Lord, you are too polite. Now that you are strong, we cannot afford to be so polite. However, although you have seen our statues in the ancient tomb, you definitely do not know much about us. Let me introduce you. My name is Eagle Demon, and I'm only at the middle stage of the God-sealing realm. And this person here is the leader of our great demons, the extreme demon. He and the mad blood devil Venerable are both at the peak of the God-sealing realm and are extremely powerful. I have met Lord Extreme Demon before. Su Yun smiled. Extreme Demon stood up and nodded. Back then, when Su Yun was fighting with the Immortal Court, the Extreme Devil had appeared to help, and then quickly left, so Su Yun had met him once. These four are the sword devils who wield the immortal trapping sword. They are Qin, Yu, Sha, and Shang. All of them are at the peak of the Ascendant God realm. The Eagle Demon said again. Hearing that, the shock in Su Yun's heart was extremely strong. He did not carefully sense the cultivation of the four of them, but when he heard those words, he was violently shocked. Including the mad blood devil Venerable who had died earlier, there were actually 6 experts at the peak of the God realm amongst the great demons of the devil cultivator. This was simply a heaven-defying existence. Although there are many experts in the great demon realm, there are too few of them. Compared to the great immortals of the immortal world, we are still at a disadvantage. The Eagle Demon seemed to have seen through Su Yun's surprise and sighed. Su Yun nodded. Then, Lord Devil Monarch, have you seen the Devil Saint? At this time, a great devil suddenly asked anxiously. Everyone looked at him in unison, their eyes filled with concern. This was a question that everyone had always wanted to ask. All the devil cultivator became nervous, but Su Yun was silent for a moment, then shook his head and said, Everyone should be very curious. Why is it that I, an early-stage God realm person, is able to possess a small world and use the methods of the ancestors? Could it be? The great devil was stunned. Su Yun sighed and said indifferently, The Devil Saint's body has already been refined by the original ancestor. His soul is unable to fuse with his body. For the future of the true devil realm, he chose to pass everything he has to me. Su Yun told him everything about the Devil Saint. These Devil Cultivator had the right to know. Hearing that, the Devil Cultivator were all silent. Sect leader, is he not here anymore? Just as the hall was silent, a voice suddenly came from the door. Hearing the familiar voice, Su Yun clenched his fists tightly, but did not say a word. Octagon Aniseed walked in step by step. At this moment, his face no longer had the warm smile he had in the past. His face was calm as he looked at Su Yun. His young and tender face was pale. How did he die? He walked in front of Su Yun and asked. In order to buy me time, he fought a bloody battle with the original ancestor. Su Yun said in a low voice, Is the original ancestor dead? Octagon Aniseed raised his head and stared at Su Yun with bright eyes. Su Yun did not answer. He only closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his originally deep eyes suddenly became bright red, and in his right eye, a soul was still frantically struggling and wailing. Seeing that, Octagon Aniseed heaved a sigh of relief, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. He sat at the side without saying a word. All of this won't end just like that. Su Yun said to Octagon Aniseed. Then what do you plan to do next? Su Yun raised his head, stared into the distance, and said, Clean. Since the immortals and demons were already opposing each other, and the decisive battle between the immortals and demons was about to begin, Su Yun would not wait for the immortals to gather together to suppress him before taking action. The matter of the immortal devil graveyard would quickly spread throughout the myriad heavens realm, and the immortals were extremely afraid of the devil cultivator and would not allow any realm in the myriad heavens realm to threaten them. Therefore, while these people had yet to take shape, he had to strike first. Heavenly Sword Sect, Divine Pedestal Sect, Di Ming Immortal Villa, Divine Sea Sect, all of them had to be eliminated. Other than that, the scattered immortals Xiao Yao also had to send people to kill him, and countless devil cultivator had died in his hands. Su Yun was a person who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. Since there was enmity, he would take revenge. Extreme Demon split the Great Demon into two groups. One group will go to the Divine Sea Sect and clean up the resources there. The other group will go to the Divine Pedestal Sect and wipe them out and bring back the resources. Qin Xianlong, send everyone out to keep an eye on the movements of the immortal world, and also send someone to inform the great Emperor Dao Shi to directly go to the Heavenly Sword Sect to encircle and annihilate them. Su Yun said to everyone, he was going to catch them all in one fell swoop. Everyone nodded and immediately began to move. The encampment was overseen by the Sword Ancestor, and Su Yun still had the teleportation talisman in his hands. If anything happened, he could return in an instant, and the defensive works could not be pulled down, so he still had to rely on Su Luluo and Wei Ming. The Immortal Demon War had already started, and Su Yun started to worry about the people who were related to him in the various realms. He was worried about Ultimate Martial Worlds Huiro Muyu and Sky Martial Continents Long Xianli, so he sent the Nether Empress to protect them. If necessary, he would bring them back to the encampment. Su Yun did not wish for the matter with the Peerless Sect to happen again, especially the Realm Master. As one of the few envoys in the immortal world, she would definitely be targeted. Su Yun immediately sent people to the Wanhua realm to bring her back. The great demons had mastered many ancient formations, especially a formation called the Imperial Light Formation. Using this formation, 10,000 miles was but a thought. Using this formation, Su Yun arrived at the Di Ming Immortal Villa in less than half a day. This time, Su Yun did not bring many experts. The only God-sealed realm expert was the Eagle Demon. Kai Tian and Faceless led a group of elites to follow. The Di Ming Immortal Villa was a huge city in the sky. It was extremely bustling. The floating city seemed to be made of gold. It was resplendent like a palace of the gods. A few huge spirit beasts were circling around the palace. A few disciples of the Di Ming Immortal Villa were entering and exiting the city gates. The scene was extremely peaceful. Su Yun flew over. The disciples saw the group of people approaching, and all became vigilant. One of the disciples flew out and shouted at Su Yun, "Stop! Who are you people? Don't you know where this is? Quickly unload your weapons and report your names." Kill! Su Yun immediately pulled out the Heaven Destroyer sword and fiercely slashed forward. Before the disciple could even react, he was sliced into smithereens and died in an instant, while the people behind Su Yun were like jackals and wolves rushing forward. Kill! Roars rang out as people poured forward. Seeing that, the disciples panicked and immediately ran towards the Di Ming Immortal Villa. Very quickly, the Immortal Villa's enchantment rose, and the alarm was sent out. Who dares to cause trouble in my Di Ming Immortal Villa? An angry shout sounded out, followed by a few figures flying out. The one in the lead was Di Huanyu and a few elders of the Di family. What was surprising was that Di Qing was also among the crowd, but at the moment, her face was pale white, and she was extremely afraid. Di Ba and Di Long had both died in Su Yun's hands, and when she heard the news, she was extremely regretful. If she had been willing to lower her stance and listen to Su Yun's explanation and not be so arrogant, maybe she would not have provoked Su Yun and might even have become friends with him, but it was all too late. The Di Ming Immortal Villa had wanted to kill Su Yun several times, and even Di Ba had brought people to the encampment to provoke them. The grudge between Su Yun and the Di Ming Immortal Villa could no longer be resolved. When Di Huanyu saw the man dressed in a pitch-black robe holding the Heaven Destroyer's sword, his eyes were instantly filled with fear. Su Yun, his voice was filled with fear. During the battle in the graveyard of immortals and devils, he had personally experienced Su Yun's terror. Even the startling god, Si, could only flee in front of Su Yun, which showed how powerful he was. Di Huanyu knew that Su Yun would not let the Di Ming immortal villa off, so he had sent people to the ancient heaven god's assembly to seek protection. However, he did not expect Su Yun to arrive so quickly after the battle with the ancestor. Could it be that he was not injured? Otherwise, how could he recover so quickly? Are you trying to destroy my Di Ming immortal villa? Di Huanyu's voice was hoarse. If I didn't have the power of the ancestor, wouldn't you have killed my people? Su Yun retorted. If people offend me, I will definitely offend them. Hearing that, Di Huanyu knew that he was the one who had buried the Di Ming immortal villa. If he did not get involved in this matter, how could there be such a disaster? Chapter 1486. Great sect leader, we have no way out. This person killed Di Ba and Di Long. Let's take action and avenge them. An elder from the Di Ming immortal manor roared. Yes, I see that the cultivation of those immortals is not high. Why don't we charge forward and kill them a few times? Great sect leader, let's go. The chaotic roars continued to ring out. The people from the Di Ming immortal manor were all excited, as though they wanted to rush forward and fight with Su Yun. They did not experience the battle of the graveyard of immortals and devils, because the people who went with Di Huanyu did not return. Many people did not even know how terrifying the ancestor was, which was why they were so excited. However, Di Huanyu understood that there was no way out. However, Su Yun did not give him time to think. He bellowed and rushed forward. Kill. Leave no one alive. Since the people of the Di Ming immortal manor had chosen to make him their enemy, he would not show any mercy. If he wanted to kill, he would naturally turn the world upside down. Anyone who resisted would be destroyed by the cruelest methods. The Heaven Destroyer sword swept over with a horrifying aura of destruction. The powerful pressure was unstoppable, especially the ancestral aura on the sword. Not even the power of creation could withstand it. The people from Di Ming Celestial Manor instantly felt hopeless, and their hearts were filled with fear. The person who had been clamoring to kill a few times felt his heart turn cold. Powerful. Too powerful. Was this person the ancestor? Ancestor? What could the Di Ming immortal manor use to fight against him? Who would fight against the ancestor for them? This was an existence that could not be defeated. Facing such a powerful existence, anything and everything would submit to him, because the ancestor was a god to the people of the 10,000 worlds. Di Huanyu had no choice but to clench his teeth and rush forward. He pulled out a long wooden sword and blocked the heaven extinguishing sword. The wooden sword was made from the roots of the ancient divine wood. It was called the Tai Yiwood Sword and was the sect protecting treasure of the Di Ming immortal manor. Wherever the wooden sword passed, business would flourish. Those who were suppressed by the destructive aura of the heaven extinguishing sword were immediately nourished, and the pressure was greatly reduced. But when the Tai Yiwood sword collided with the heaven extinguishing sword, cracks immediately appeared on the wooden sword's body. What? Di Huanyu was shocked. But just then, the ancestor's power surged over. Bang! Di Huanyu was sent flying. Die! Su Yun took the opportunity to rush forward. Ming Emperor's divine palm, 10,000 lights. Di Huanyu roared angrily and struck out with his palm. The light was so bright that no one could open their eyes. Demonic sealing palm. Seal it. Su Yun slashed down with his palm. The ancestral power erupted. Like a demon's mouth, it swallowed the endless light. Di Huanyu was terrified, and he hurriedly tried to unleash another move. However, the terrifying progenitor's power spread over and actually completely sealed off his power of creation. He couldn't even use a single move. Whoosh! The sword of Heaven Destroyer slashed down, and the terrifying sword body suddenly turned into sword shadows that blotted out the sky. As the sword slashed down, the mountains and rivers were shattered, and the huge Di Ming Celestial Manor was sliced in half. Di Huanyu was dead. When they found out that Su Yun was their ancestor, the majority of the people from the Di Ming Celestial Manor had already lost most of their fighting spirit. Facing such a terrifying existence, no one could have much fighting spirit, because to them, winning was almost impossible. Although Su Yun was just a fake ancestor, the small world in his body truly existed. Even though the small world had just formed and it was difficult to develop, but even if it only had a bit of the ancestor's power, it was enough to fight against someone at the peak of the conferred god realm. It must be known that a real ancestor could kill someone at the peak of the conferred god realm with just a thought. With Di Huanyu dead, everyone fled in all directions. Who dared to resist? Even Di Qing couldn't escape the calamity and lost his life to the terrifying spell. The Diming Celestial Manor had completely fallen, and no one could stop Su Yun. It's only Tian. Leave a portion of people here to transport the resources. Faceless, bring some people and follow me to the Heavenly Sword Sect. Seeing that the situation was set, Su Yun shouted, "Yes, master." Everyone started to move. The ninth heaven. 4 huge figures stood on a white jade celestial platform, and in front of them, a person knelt. This person was Happy Drunk, who had escaped from the graveyard of immortals and demons. Happy Drunk was willful and selfish, and his reputation in the celestial world was not good. However, his cultivation was strong, and even if he had many enemies, no one could do anything to him. He was alone, so he was not afraid, but this time was different. He had offended the ancestor, and no matter how big the myriad worlds were, there would not be a place for him to hide. Moreover, he had received news that Su Yun had already started to clean up the sects that had provoked him. He knew that he would not be able to escape, so he came to the ancient heaven gods' council early to meet the 4 heavenly kings. Among these 4 figures, one had the head of an elephant, one of a lion, and the other wore a mask, and the other wore a black robe. They were all mysterious. Although Happy Drunk was a powerhouse at the peak of the conferred god realm, in front of these 4, he felt like he was standing in front of a giant, and he was very small. "So, you're here to seek protection?" The primeval elephant king's deep voice sounded. Su Yun has already started a massacre, and the targets of his slaughter are almost all people who have surrendered to the ancient heaven gods' council. "My lords, Su Yun has already declared war on the ancient heaven gods' council." Happy Drunk knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "We have been paying attention to Su Yun's movements. This person is stubborn and cannot be taught. We have sent many people to persuade him to surrender to us, but not only did he refuse, he even raised his blade against our people. If not for the ominous sword in his hand, we, the ancient heaven gods' council, would have killed him long ago." The primeval Lion King said, his words filled with anger. "Su Yun is powerful, and now that he has obtained the demonic saint's inheritance, he has entered the ancestor realm. I am afraid he will not be easy to deal with. However, I feel that my lords do not need to worry about the ominous sword. If the ominous sword can be used, why is Su Yun not using it? I believe that Su Yun has not fully mastered the ominous sword, or there is some reason that prevents him from using it." Happy Drunk laughed. "Now that you put it that way, that is indeed the case. This person is getting more and more arrogant. If we continue to ignore him, I am afraid that in the future, he will become a threat to the ancient heaven gods' council. Everyone, it is time for us to loosen up." The primeval sovereign said calmly. "Su Yun has the ancestor realm. My lords, do you have the confidence to kill him?" Happy Drunk asked carefully. However, he was met with a cold snort. "Oomph, a mere ancestor realm. With the 4 of us working together, what is the ancestor realm to him? The primordial heavenly gods' council isn't a power formed by those nobodies outside. In the immortal world, we are heavenly gods." The one who spoke was the Lion King. He was so angry that Happy Drunk almost could not breathe. "My lord is right." Happy Drunk hurriedly lowered his head. "All right, you can scram. I will arrange a position for you. Now that you are a member of the ancient heaven gods' council, you will have to listen to our arrangements. Some time ago, one of my dogs died. He left behind a force called 1,000 Beyond Heavens. You will be in charge." The primeval sovereign said calmly. The corner of Happy Drunk's mouth twitched, but he did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. He lowered his head and bowed, then cupped his fists and left. The divine platform returned to silence. However, Not long after, a figure appeared on the divine platform. It was a woman in black robes. Her expression was cold, and her face could not be seen. However, her aura was especially cold. As Lord Darksky's disciple, there is no need to doubt your talent. Now that the time is ripe, you should unseal your cultivation. After unsealing your cultivation, your strength should not lose to Suyun. This time, why don't you be the vanguard and scout out Suyun's strength? The ancient sorcerer god, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. He raised his head, revealing a pair of vulture-like eyes beneath his black robes. Among the 4 heavenly kings, only the ancient sorcerer god had the right to speak to this woman. Even if the other 3 spoke, the woman would not care. She did not know the relationship between the ancient sorcerer god and this woman. However, although the 4 of them were the 4 heavenly kings of the ancient heaven gods' council, their status was the same as this woman. There was no other reason. This woman was Darksky's only disciple. I got it, the woman said coldly, then turned and left. Suyun was causing an uproar. He also believed that the people of the ancient heaven gods' council would definitely make a move. After all, the people he had moved were all people who had surrendered to the ancient heaven gods' council. After receiving Suyun's order, Daoshur Heavenly Emperor immediately led the majority of the elites of Blade region to attack Heavenly Sword Sect. Wenren Jian had harmed him in the graveyard of immortals and devils. So how could he tolerate it? If not for the devils arriving in time, the people of Blade region would have all died at the mouth of the progenitor. Once Daoshur Heavenly Emperor died, Wenren Jian could easily destroy Blade region. Thinking about what happened back then, Daoshur Heavenly Emperor's anger soared to the heavens. Hu Qin and the other people of Blade region who had experienced that incident could not suppress their anger and followed Daoshur Heavenly Emperor to Heavenly Sword Sect. Both sides engaged in a fierce battle outside Heavenly Sword Sect. Wenren Jian had been injured by a great devil when he was being chased and had yet to recover. Fighting against Daoshur Heavenly Emperor was extremely disadvantageous, so he could only choose to avoid the battle and use the sex barrier to defend against the people of Blade region. But the barrier could not stop the furious people of Blade region. An hour later, all the barriers were broken. Wenren Jian had no choice but to lead the elites and charge out. Stop, Daoshur Heavenly Emperor. Are you going to start a sect extermination war? Looking at Daoshur Heavenly Emperor, who was crazily slaughtering the disciples of Heavenly Sword Sect, Wenren Jian roared in anger. Sect extermination war? It started in the graveyard of immortals and devils. Daoshur Heavenly Emperor roared and charged at Wenren Jian. You really think I'm afraid of you? Wenren Jian unsheathed his sharp sword and charged forward while roaring, everyone from Blade region. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Even if the mountains and rivers are destroyed today, I won't hesitate. Kill. Kill. The people of Heavenly Sword Sect charged forward madly. Sword Chi and Blade Chi collided fiercely. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.